Okay, it's muted. Let me try again. Guys, welcome to YouTube. Appreciate you. Breaking news. UAE has been bombed, allegedly by Iran. Multiple areas, multiple explosions, 4 waves. Dubai has been hit. Abu Dhabi has been hit. Fujairah oil industrial port has been hit. Many vessels have been hit. Huge attacks on the UAE. In addition to that, Trump began his Project Freedom, where he said he was going to go into the Strait of Hormuz, commandeer vehicles, and take them out. We said that this would result in major escalation, and there are reports that missiles were targeted towards U.S. vessels. Today, we've got on Pepe Escobar, we've got on Anthony Aguilar, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, and we've got a Lebanese journalist, MOHAMAD KLAIT, because we don't want to forget about what's happening in Lebanon. I know most people are not bothered about it. I always see like the views aren't great on that, but we're going to persist because I think it's really important for people to know what's happening in Lebanon. They should not be forgotten, especially when they do the Gaza treatment to it. On the other YouTube stream, it's about to end, so come across to the other channel. The channel is pinned, so you can see it. If the admin can keep posting it, because I'm about to end this, that would be brilliant. And I'm ending it now, so... Okay, brilliant. Oh, I can see Myron Gins has sent quite a few people to Kick. So we might have a few viewers on Kick today, which is brilliant. Quite a lot. Okay, so I've ended that. And we're going to be getting Pepe on a couple of seconds. Just need to... Here we go. Okay, and there we go. I'll keep that open in case there's any breaking news. Okay, we're sorted. Let me retweet it and then we're going to go live. We're going to have on Pepe coming on. So guys, retweet the space, reshare the video, and also the link for the... and by the way, there might be a lot of breaking news on this, so I'll have to obviously... We'll go through that with Pepe as and when breaking news is coming out, because this has been extremely high amount of volume of breaking news right now. So that should be good. But those are all... I always find like those interviews the best. Like when we were interviewing Larry Johnson yesterday, and then that news was coming out, it was really good. So that should be amazing. Okay, we're just gonna get him on now. I'm just getting this out. Here we go. Okay, cool. And Pepe's here. Let's add him. Hi Pepe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh man.
Craziness. It's really
No,
early
but
there, isn't it?
I am in a beautiful island in the Andaman Sea in Thailand, which is the absolute contrast to the dementia we're all in at the
It is.
moment.
You're living in utopia.
Well, at
You're
least for
living in the
2 weeks.
citadel.
Yeah. I am in the maritime citadel, but I'm going to China next week, so this is just calm before the storm.
Okay, let's start this interview. I just want to welcome Pepe Escobar to the show. He is a geopolitical expert. We love having him on. So much knowledge, so much information. This guy knows everything. And this is the perfect time to get him on. Pepe, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you, Suleiman. It's a pleasure to be with you. Greetings to you and to our audience from the Andaman Sea in Thailand. If you keep navigating west, you reach India. And maybe a few American ships on the way.
Well, this is going to be the $1 million question. Pepe, let's get right into it. Breaking news about an hour or so ago. UAE was hit. I believe there was 4 waves before we started this interview. Dubai.
Always, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dubai was hit. Abu Dhabi was hit. Jebel Ali Port was hit. and we've
Well,
seen
Ali,
Fujairah on fire. Please give us your thoughts on that.
oof, it's horrible because it's escalation trap all over again. And obviously the Americans provoked that. And the way the Iranians read it, they read it, okay, he's going to relaunch the war. So we better relaunch it first and maybe try to prove a point to him that it's a very, very bad way to go. We don't know how this is going. It doesn't look good because, first of all, Trump launches out of the blue once again because there is no strategy coming from Washington ever. Humanitarian project, whatever, Project Freedom, or some. So we want everybody to start singing "We are the world, we are the people." Now it's totally stupid. Okay, obviously, the U.S. Navy, they don't have.
Pepe, you've just froze. We'll just wait for Pepe to come back. He just froze for a few seconds, but he was talking about how the escalation trap, the escalation that's occurring in the conflict. Okay, we'll bring him back. Oh, he's back on.
Yeah,
You're back, Pepe.
yeah, I'm back now. Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, Suleiman. Well, so this project, humanitarian project, whatever, out of the blue, basically CENTCOM telling, it's absolutely fascinating. They're saying, look, you want to cross the Strait of Hormuz. It's very simple. You get very close to the Omani
Yeah.
coast. You talk to the Omanis. You turn off your transponder. You get a VHF message, and you pray. If you're lucky, you're going to be able to cross to the other side. This is CENTCOM's message, essentially. Well, a few hours later, what do we have? We have a new map of the Strait of Hormuz and a little bit wider Persian Gulf by the IRGC Navy. And now there is a blockade of the American blockade. If you look at the map, basically, the IRGC Navy is not only active in Iranian territorial waters around the big island of Kesh, but all the way to the other side and blockading Qatar, Bahrain, and especially the UAE, all UAE ports. So this is already, let's say, the first stage. The second stage, we are right in the middle of it, as Suleiman just mentioned in the beginning of our conversation. 4 volleys of ballistic missiles from Iran. Probably the 5th is coming right now. Attacks on Fujairah terminal. There are pictures of Fujairah oil terminal all over the net, and not only the Iranian net. Attack on Jebel Ali port, very, very important, close to Dubai. So this is, we can read this 2 ways. One, it could be a message to the UAE. Look, you better consider carefully your next steps now that you are officially positioned as Arab Israel and you have aligned yourself with the US and Israel in the Epstein Syndicate. And we have all the data compiled here of what you did to attack us during the war. And we have not responded yet. So you can read this as a message, or you could read that as already a preemptive attack to show to Trump, are you sure you want to get into this? This is just a starter, what we're doing with the UAE today. Very clever response because the Iranians are not attacking US vessels because that was the trap. The initial trap was, okay, let's manufacture a Gulf of Tonkin 2.0. They're going to attack one of our ships, and we have the perfect casus belli to restart the war. The Iranians are too sophisticated to fall for a trap like that, so they are not attacked. They sent 2 missiles as a warning to an American destroyer. That's a completely different story. They did not hit an American ship. And obviously, Baboon of Barbaria, keeping with his trademark vociferation, said, if they attack our ships, I'm going to blow them off the face of the planet. Okay, we already know that. So for the moment, we are in an extremely dangerous escalation trap from both sides. This could go anywhere, right, Suleiman? And it's very, very worrying. It's extremely worrying. There are two possibilities, essentially. Never forget what's going to happen next week. The meeting in Beijing between Trump and Xi Jinping starting on May 14th, next Thursday. So he needs to arrive in Beijing in control of something, not in the middle of a war that he simply cannot control. So if we take the 10-day look forward, maybe. So, okay, what they could do tonight, they're probably deliberating as we speak. Okay, what's going to be our response to the Iranian missile volleys against the UAE? We do nothing. That's one possibility. After all, they didn't attack one of our vessels, so we have nothing to do with it. It's a UAE problem. Or if they interpreted, okay, let's go all out. After all, we have we have been building towards it for the past few weeks. And then, of course, we are in total escalation a trap and out of control. And the summit next week is already blown up even before it starts. So this is why the situation is so. It's an inflection point today. It's a very, very maybe the most dangerous day of these past few weeks. There is a decision to be made by it's not by Trump himself. He cannot decide on what bloody cheeseburger he's going to have next. It's, of course, the people who run the show behind it. When they see that it's total zugzwang, anything that he does is a bad move, especially this last one with this project, humanitarian, whatever. It's ridiculous. Nobody's fooled by that. It's to provoke Iran, to get Iran into a trap, and to go to a Gulf of Tonkin 2.0 scenario and have a casus belli. And then point to the whole planet. Obviously, nobody's going to believe it, but this is how they think in Washington. Okay, everybody's going to see that Iran broke the ceasefire. Well, the ceasefire is already being broken. There's no more ceasefire as we speak. But what next? Very, very worrying, Suleiman. Very, very, very worrying. Because there seems to be an escalation trap logic on both sides. At the moment. And there's no negotiation whatsoever that could bridge the gap. And now that is happening, also very, very important. Obviously, he didn't listen to anything that Putin told him. Putin met with Arakshi in St. Petersburg. They talked for 1 hour and a half. President of Russia talking to a foreign minister for 1 hour and a half. This unprecedented by all means. So he got the full picture from the Iranian side. What does he do immediately afterwards? He picks up the phone, he calls Trump and says, look, this is the Iranian position. As your friend, I suggest that you don't do anything rash. If you do, you're going to be in a much worse position than you already are. So this is what we can understand from what was leaked by Ushakov, an old fox. He only leaks the parts that he really likes, right? Yeah. But we can also, it's possible to imagine how Putin was telling Trump of the consequences of restarting a war now. For his political career, for his standing, for West Asia as a whole, for the global economy, you name it. List of reasons that Putin can deliver in 5 minutes in detail with numbers. Did Trump understand any of that, Suleiman? Our bet is no. because immediately afterwards he starts with this provocation, knowing that the Iranians would, I wouldn't say he would know, but the people who actually did it and forced him to do it, to provoke a response from Iran. And Iran already said, look, any attempt by the Americans to come to the Persian Gulf or the Strait of Hormuz, we're going after them immediately, right away. And this is exactly what they're doing. And now they had already gamed a response. They were expecting something similar. Not exactly this humanitarian project per se, but something similar. They say, okay, we already have our response. We start with the UAE because they have all the data in detail by now, checked, verified, double checked, etc. How the UAE helped U.S. and Israel in the war against Iran. So there's got to be payback. So we can read these first four volleys, maybe five, maybe six, tonight as a message to the UAE. Look, we got our eyes on you. Be careful what you do next. At the same time, this could offer, it's not an off ramp, but the possibility for the Americans to, okay, they're not attacking us. So maybe let's strike something over there as a sort of a Hollywood victory, proclaim a temporary victory. We tell the Iranians what we're going to hit. Of course, no misunderstandings. And Trump gets, let's say, a mini soft off ramp before the meeting next week with Xi. But Suleiman, considering how volatile and how totally out of control is the character in question, I think the worst possibility is ahead of us, escalation.
I agree. I just can't see an off ramp. I think today was, as you said, an inflection point that kind of raised the bar significantly. I guess the question to you, Pepe, is could it be, because I'm just listening to what you're saying and it makes a lot of sense, but are you saying that based on what you're saying, could there be a possibility that Iran said to the United States of America that, look, do not do this, do not bring your vessels or your military vessels into the Strait of Hormuz. If you do it on day one, we will attack UAE. If you then do X, Y, and Z, as in go in and send like 5 destroyers, we'll then attack Saudi, and then they've kind of given them a list of like what their different steps are, or maybe not even being direct by saying we will escalate. Do you think that's a possibility?
It is, Suleiman. It's a very good possibility because once again, if we interpret this as a message, an indirect message to the US via UAE, it makes sense. After all, the UAE, they had already their data bank of what to hit in the UAE because they knew that the UAE from the beginning was at war with them. So it's this had already been gamed. It was part of their plans. They did not deviate from their plans because there is this extra Trump blockade. And they're not attacking American ships. Very important because they know this is the trap. If they really attack one American ship, that's the casus belli that the Americans are itching to use.
But
So they launched 2 ballistic missiles as a warning. It's a completely different story. These were not direct hits. So if we have anybody with a minimum of common sense and critical thinking among the deciding circle around Trump, they will interpret this like this. But can we bet on it? No, unfortunately.
do you think that there could be a possibility where there's 2 elements to it? The US kind of stays in a freeze in the Strait, and I mean, I don't see how the UAE could do it. What's the possibility that this just be a direct conflict between UAE and Iran for the next few days or a week?
If there is a direct conflict, Suleiman, UAE is going to become a parking lot. They have all it takes to destroy the UAE completely. Starting with Jebel Ali and Fujairah, And then other strategic sites a little bit everywhere. Well, they already destroyed the Dubai business model, which is it's something that already disappeared in the first days of the war. To destroy the Abu Dhabi oil model post exit from OPEC and OPEC Plus would be very, very easy. The missiles are already pointed to all the targets in the. And once again, this is not the whole UAE. This is Dubai and Abu Dhabi, essentially. The other ones, they are probably terrified because they're caught in the middle. But they're not doing anything against, specifically against Iran.
Well, I'd include Ras Al Khaimah because remember, one of the attacks on Karg Island was from Ras Al Khaimah.
Oh, yes, it's true. Okay, let's say it's more or less split.
Yeah.
Huh?
Because Sharjah's definitely not with them.
Exactly. So we have maybe 4-3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. But
But
it's
wasn't
not.
Ajman hit as well? I think Ajman was hit as well.
You're right. Ajman was. Yeah, I was looking at the. Yes, it's true.
Yeah. So it's only, I think, Sharjah, Pepe. I think
I think
Sharjah.
only Sharjah is outside.
Yeah.
Exactly outside.
Sharjah, that's why it's free Sharjah. Like, we want to release, because they want to stay away from this Zionist Zionist regime.
Well, they're right. They're trying to protect themselves, and they are already looking ahead and say, we're not going to be part of this thing anymore. We're going to have a republic soon.
So, but the question exactly.
Yes.
But the question on that is the UAE's defense committee chairman is saying we cannot remain silent. Many statements coming out of the UAE is saying there's going to be a response within 24 hours. So I believe, based on what you're saying, Pepe, UAE can't do anything. So that response is going to have to come from US and Israel.
What are they gonna do? If they launch missiles against Iran, they're toast, and they know that. They know that. There's not much they can do. And it's not like Israel that they have UAE cells strategically positioned a little bit everywhere in Iran. They don't. And of course, the Iranians are just itching to really teach a lesson to the UAE, much more than what they've done so far. So if this remains between both, there is, I would say, a 1 in a million chance that the Americans won't get directly involved. But the thing is, nobody can tell for sure the calculations, not only by Trump, but of course by the people he owes favors to. And these are the most dangerous ones. He has a menu of devastating resumption of war possibilities. Everything about decapitation strikes again, attacking power plants, you name it, destroying a car. All are horrible. And they were presented to him last Thursday by Joint Chiefs and CENTCOM. Apparently, considering our friends in Washington, he's maybe not, or maybe something for the moment a little bit soft, but not at the moment. But he's not an idiot. He knows that he has the summit of a lifetime next week.
Yeah.
He cannot possibly arrive at the summit in the middle of a war against Iran. And even if he arrives in the position that he is now, he has not even, he has less than zero. He has nothing in his hands. The cards don't even exist. The Chinese know it. And the Chinese are just, from a Taoist point of view, they're just observing the cadaver floating in the river, impassable, absolutely impassable. They don't need to raise a finger So they just want to get rid of this summit, especially.
But just on that summit, and it
Yes.
was planned a month ago. It was delayed.
Yes, it was delayed. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be delayed again? Or do you think that... Because how
Could
can
be.
Trump go in? Like, this war's not going to end in 10 days. That's just impossible. In worst case scenario, there's a ceasefire. And just now, Trump's made a statement. He's talked about
Okay.
Project Freedom, but he's not talked about the UAE at all. So he's ignoring that. So what does Trump do? This is, like, in terms of the conference, do you think he delays it? What does he do? He's in a much worse situation this minute than he was even 24 hours ago.
You're right, but if there is a resumption of war, of course, this thing will probably going to, and even the Chinese are going to say, "What's the point of you coming here? There's nothing to discuss. You are in the middle of a war. Why don't you solve the war that you started in the first place?" There's not much we can. Are we going to discuss artificial intelligence, semiconductors, your absolutely stupid tariffs, secondary sanctions on our oil refineries? No, it's pointless. Take care of your house first. That's a possibility. If we stay like we are now, this strategic impasse, maybe we're going to have a summit next week. But for the moment, we are in a, I would say there's an interrogation mark the size of the galaxy, in fact. And it all depends on, I would say, a glimpse of common sense. After all, he is trying to find an off-ramp. And when Putin gives him the off-ramp on a phone call, Putin was basically telling him in his phone call, look, as a friend, I can try to find a way between you and Tehran. Putin is the only person on the planet who could possibly do something like that. And he said, if you do something foolish, you're going to be in a horrible position, much worse than the horrible position that you are already in now. Obviously, he didn't pay attention, Suleiman, but he doesn't. He doesn't register. And especially he doesn't register critical thinking, much more elaborate critical thinking that contradicts his prejudices, which was obviously what was going on during this very long phone call, over an hour and a half. So he could not possibly register that. If he did, he wouldn't have come up with this absolutely stupid project humanitarian whatever. Project Freedom. Now, this is stupid.
No doubt, no doubt. Now, why do you think Trump didn't mention UAE? Do you think he's ignoring it, or he needs to figure out how to deal with it, or do you think there's a plan for a surprise attack?
That's a very good question, also. We don't know. We really don't know because of the volatility of this character. It could be that he's on purpose ignoring it, assuming that he wants to leave the situation for the moment as it is. A strategic impasse, in fact. If he said, well, he already said, I would say that the key was this a few hours ago, the key post a few hours ago, if Iran attacks one of our ships, well, I'm going to blow them off the face of the planet,
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
This is the key one. And obviously the Iranians know how to interpret this. This is the trap. They did not fall into the trap in the first place. So, they turned the subject around completely. Okay, we expand our blockade and we include the UAE, which is something that we wanted to do in the first place. And they are at war against us. So we have reason to attack them.
You mentioned Oman, and I read the thing about the route through Oman. Now, Iran has been fighting this war. Iran has taken control of the strait, and yet they said, look, we're going to share the strait with Oman. And
Yes.
now it seems like Oman, because in the Trump statement, it said you need to send a VHF to Oman, which means it seems like Oman is also involved in this with the United States of America. Don't you think that's a betrayal? The Iranians went to see Oman. Or please explain what you think's happening there.
It's very, very tricky, Suleiman, because it seems that Trump is understanding that Iran and Oman are talking, and they're going to be two territorial waters that most of all tankers can choose. Which one do you want? If you take the Iranian territorial waters, you pay the IRGC Navy toll. Then you keep going. If you choose Oman, Oman has to come. Oman obviously will want to install their own toll booths. It's not going to be free, because For all practical purposes, now the Strait of Hormuz is an Iranian Omani operation. They can do anything they want because it's inside their territorial waters. It's not international waters. In fact, it was never international waters. In fact, Iran chose not to have a toll booth. They could have chosen this 40 years ago, for instance. They never did. But now they have a very good reason to have the toll booth. So apparently, Trump or the people around him seem to understand that there's going to be two different ways to cross Hormuz. And that's why they CENTCOM is actually suggesting, this is something straight out of a Monty Python sketch. Look, you get to the Omani territorial waters, you get in touch with them, you pray, and then you can go.
So you don't think Oman's involved in this then, based on what you're saying?
No, not at all. Well, they're being dragged into it. That's more complicated. Because they have not made up, because they're both talking. Iranian authorities are talking to Omani authorities. So how are we going to organize the Strait of Hormuz? But not now. In the next step, assuming there's no more war. For the moment, no. It's an enormous interrogation point. The Omanis. Okay, so what happens? You're a tanker. You decide to go through Omani territorial waters, the 12 miles. You have to get in touch with them first, so they have to give you permission to cross. And probably this is not going to be automatic. They're going to have their own vetting process as well, because they don't want trouble.
So coming back to it, one of the questions I've got is, because you mentioned something a bit different than what I've heard from quite a lot of commentators. And it is this idea that Iran doesn't, holistically, everyone agrees, Iran doesn't want to get into kinetic action and they're being forced into it. That being said, you said, look, they sent 2 warning shots, but they don't want to fall into the trap of the Gulf of, what was it again? Gulf of Tompkins.
Gulf of Tonkin, exactly, yes.
Yeah. And so but the problem is, if the US starts being a bit more aggressive, going into the territory, what do they do? I had an interview. Well, I had a panelist yesterday who actually had a good idea. He said maybe what they should do is attack the vessel, not the Navy ship, and then no vessel will want to come out. But what does Iran do?
Then it gets really complicated because they said no U.S. military vessels will be allowed to come not only to the Strait of Hormuz, but the wider Persian Gulf.
Yeah.
Well, let's assume the U.S. Navy has the balls to send, let's say, a couple of destroyers to test the terrain. How are the Iranians going to deal with that? Very, very tricky. Because this would be setting up a trap. But at the same time, the Americans have to understand that, look, these 2 destroyers could be sunk in a matter of minutes. Are you willing to be publicly humiliated for the whole world to see? So on both sides, there's an enormous risk. But considering how desperate Trump is at the moment, anything is possible, Suleiman, really. Even that. And those generals, they never could win a battle with toys in their own backyard. They think that they know anything about war. They could have suggested something like that to Trump.
Okay, another question I got for you is, because of one of your many expertises, trade routes, various other things. There were 2 pieces of news that happened. But actually, let's deal with the one today. Iran hit Fujairah port. I believe Fujairah was a mode by which they were going, a separate direction to the Strait of Hormuz. I believe 1.5 million barrels come out of there. If that has been taken offline, how impactful is that on the global oil market as well as the UAE's own distribution?
Probably was not taken offline yet, Suleiman. I think some oil depots, warehouses were hit. Okay. Not a big hit. Once again, if we continue with this scenario possibility of a warning to the UAE, be careful. Because next time we're not going to be so, If Fujairah is out, for the UAE is going to be a mega disaster to start with. And obviously, for the global oil market, if it loses another 1.5 million, tell me about it. Then Brent is near 120 at the moment. Then it's going to get to 150 very, very fast. And then the sky is the limit. And if Hormuz on the Iranian side continues to be blocked, at the moment now is blocked, really. Yeah? So can you imagine if this thing holds for another 2 or 3 weeks? Then it's disaster. It's disaster. Absolutely. And they are, well, the Europeans are already absolutely terrified. I've been talking to people in Europe, and they are with a few exceptions, like France, because France, they have a unique mix with nuclear power, a gas deal with Algeria, and all that. But Germany, these are in deep, deep, deep trouble.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. There's significant issues.
And the Asians, the Japanese and the South Koreans are freaking out completely. And India. Okay, India, they still have the, let's say, the Russian gas back up. And of course, the Russian oil, of course. And Russia said, okay, we're going to export more oil to India. You need it. We have a partnership. But South Korea and Japan, they are in deep, deep trouble as well.
I did read that Japan and South Korea were, and I think you mentioned it as well in the previous show, actually. You mentioned it, and then I read it just yesterday as well, that Japan and South Korea are doing some kind of hidden, you may have said it, just correct me, I'm putting words in your mouth, but that they're doing some kind of hidden deal with Russia because things are really bad there.
They have to, Suleiman. And even with the RGC Navy, the South Korea, we still don't know if they got an okay, the South Korean special envoy to Tehran. We still don't know if he got a total green light from the RGC Navy. And the Japanese were talking under the table with the Iranians as well. They need, for them, it's a matter of life and death.
Well, the Japanese had a vessel that went out and it had 2 million barrels, right? But a South...
The one that came from the U.S., right?
No, that was only 700,000.
That was the Japanese that went the West.
Yeah, that one. The one that had so much oil, it was just too much oil. There wasn't enough for the there wasn't enough for the South Koreans. But I meant from the Iran, right? But also just today, and I was just reading the Trump statement just now, and he did mention South Korea, but I've not read the statement properly. But apparently a South Korean vessel was also hit by Iran last night.
Exactly. We saw the image. The images are a little bit everywhere. And we still don't know the story, why this particular South Korean tanker was hit. They tried something extremely foolish, which was try to navigate Hormuz without asking permission. If they did that, they knew it was coming. The Iranians have been saying that from the beginning. You need to clear with the RGC Navy. And this applies to everybody. If that was the case, they had it coming.
You know, there's these conversations about Sharjah being separated. Do you think that's realistic, or do you think it's more...
No, I don't think it's real. I love I think the idea is quirky and fascinating, but it's not realistic. No? And Sharjah, it's too small, no? And it's not as wealthy as the other ones.
True. Yeah, I agree. We can have the hope, but yeah, it's highly unlikely.
No.
Yeah. Now, in terms of escalation in this, because Israel at the moment it seems like wouldn't want to get into this kinetic war. And what I mean by this, they're struggling in Lebanon already, and the entire focus is on Lebanon. If the US ends up engaging in the war right now, Israel's going to become a target. Does Israel want to get involved? What's the complexities on that? Very complex,
because they know they cannot be, if the war resumes and if they engage with the US, there are rational players in Tel Aviv that they know that the Iranian response this time is going to be like all the way. And then we're going to have real devastation. They cannot afford that. They are still trying to rebuild what was devastating during the war. And as you mentioned correctly, their obsession now is what essentially Gaza 2.0 that they are applied to southern Lebanon. It's absolutely horrifying. And everything must go. They are destroying whole villages. They are attacking Christians everywhere. It's absolutely horrible. They are purging Shiites, in fact. So this is extremely, extremely serious. And even if Hezbollah is still, but the destruction of southern Lebanon now, it's a fact. And obviously, no words from anybody. They do it because they know they can get away with it. Again, after Gaza, they're doing a mini Gaza 2.0, and they know they can get away with it. It's absolutely horrible.
And I am reading. Sorry.
I don't know if you've seen Suleiman, an interview by that absolutely ghastly Bennett, Naftali Bennett.
Disgusting.
He was basically saying that the idea is to have as allies not only the UAE, which they consider a very, very good ally, but guess what? Saudi Arabia, which at the moment is off limits, India and Indonesia. They are trying. Well, they don't need to co-opt India because India is already in their pocket.
True.
And we knew before the war, but Indonesia as well, full BRICS member, just like India. So my gut feeling for a few weeks now that BRICS is in deep coma keeps being reaffirmed. They're gonna have a foreign minister meeting this month in India. It's gonna be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. They're going to be doing their post-mortem even before the summit in September in New Delhi. It's a total disaster. BRICS is already completely from the inside, blown up from the inside.
True.
And the Chinese and the Russians, they cannot salvage much. They're going to have to restructure the whole thing.
Exactly.
And like if I was an advisor, I say, okay, throw India out now.
Exactly.
And throw the Emirates out now.
Exactly.
And start again. And there's a lot of very important, crucial countries who are partners. They are partners already among the 10s, and the list of countries who want to get in. Okay, get 2 of the partners to be full members and get 2 from the list to be partners. Restart the whole mechanism. The way it is now, it's a total disaster.
Pepe, I always was a big believer that BRICS wouldn't work, and part of the reason I always believed it.
Can I ask you why? Can I ask you why, Suleiman?
Yeah, because India and China would never ever work, and China is linked to Pakistan. China has interests where they can't, have problems with Pakistan as well in a long term. For example, there's a number of issues they have, and so when you look at the India and China situation, India's always, if you look at it historically, been very Zionist. If you look at the BJP, if you look at their kind of psychology, it's very similar. The supremacist attitude that the Israelis have, they have it in their own country as well. They have this kind of caste system as well. And so, and by the way, I'm like part Indian, but obviously mostly Pakistani from Kashmir. But the issue is, so I never ever thought that would work, because I thought, like, wait a second, China, who's always had historic issues with India, they've always had border issues. India's always tried to go towards US, but US has always pushed them back because of their control that they have over Pakistan, and now India moving towards Israel. So India was always looking for a different opportunity. And so when I saw India within there, I never ever thought it'd work. That was my main reason why. Now, as you just said, now, if India was to be removed, if they were to remove these Gulf states, because again, I have the same view about Saudi Arabia. I know they're like a partner, but again, I think Saudi Arabia's allegiance will always be to the United States of America. And that's because if you look at the history of Saudi Arabia, there's deep entrenched intelligence operations within there. MBS knows if he goes against the US, he will be out. He'll be assassinated the next day. So,
and they lose all their money.
Exactly. And they'll just take all their money. So for those reasons, I never thought BRICS could work. But could there be a scenario where there's China, Russia, and now maybe Iran, something you mentioned in last show, some kind of triad, triad organization with other people beneath it, or maybe you could even have China and Russia, and then some other ones in different layers, or whatever it is. But the specific BRICS, I never thought it'd work. But I know you. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with you, Suleiman. Now, maybe I was too romantic. I followed BRICS closely. This past before the summit in Kazan in Russia and before the summit in Rio last year, I was always trying to promote BRICS. I was talking to the Sherpas all the time. I believe that it could work, but that was until last year. This war changes everything, everything, and even before the start of the war, with that Modi visit to Israel, that blew up BRICS from the inside, but big time. And then their relation to never condemn the war against Iran, never. So that was it, and it's inside the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. There's even some understanding between India and Pakistan. Sorry, between India and Pakistan, and India and China. But inside BRICS, from what I've been following these past few years, it was Putin that was the glue. So Putin was the only one who had, to get Modi and Xi on the same room, on the same table, and tell them both, okay, now we sit here, the three of us, and you're gonna talk your issues to each other face to face. So the agglutinator was Putin, and that's why it was starting to work inside BRICS. But now, after the war, which is against a full BRICS member, and we have another two, they are essentially against it. The organization is it's blown up. So this is something we should ask our great friend Sergei Lavrov, which I plan to do next time in Russia. He was a big believer on BRICS as well. He worked very hard for BRICS, especially before the summit in Kazan. And Sergei Ryabkov, the number 2 foreign ministry in Russia. This guy is brilliant. He is the number 1 Russian BRICS Sherpa. And he's probably going to be this year again before. They must be floored. How can we put this thing back together? Unfortunately, but your analysis is correct. That the way it is configured now, it's impossible.
And also, like, if you listen to a lot of these Indians, and what I mean by that is, what India did is they infiltrated the United States of America and the UK. So, like Vivek Ramaswamy, if you look at him, his grandfather is BJP, and also in the US, you've got people like Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, all of them extremely close to Israel, Zionist. And one of the things they always say, they say it privately, but actually when I interviewed Vivek, he let it out. And what he said was, what we're basically pushing for the United States of America is to remove trade from China and increase it with India. So the entire infiltration has always been to get closer to the US. So you can never trust them as a partner. The partnership in BRICS is only a means to try and get closer to the US. But then the problem with the US is, they're only going to do that if Pakistan basically move away from them. So it's kind of like a complex situation where...
Very complex. Exactly. And now the Indians had serial heart attacks when Pakistan emerged as the mediator.
Yeah.
They were never expect that to happen. Exactly. But, and of course, in China, Pakistan.
Yeah.
For instance, China would love to bring Pakistan into BRICS. Yeah. And the Russians would not say no, even though the relationship between Russia and India is very close. But the Russians would not veto, not at all. Just like they did not veto in the SCO.
Well, China financed the pipeline, right, between Pakistan and Iran, which I know hasn't finished, but there's conversations about it.
Well, this was one of my favorite stories for years, Suleiman. In the beginning was the IPI, Iran, Pakistan, India. So the Americans vetoed India. So then it became IP. So then the Americans were doing everything to collapse IP. This was during when they were still in Pakistan. Now there's a strong possibility because the Iranian part is already built. And the Pakistanis said, look, we don't have the money to finish our part. And the Iranians said, look, we can help you. So this is where we were until a while ago. And then the Chinese looked at both sides and said, look, we can get into it. It becomes IPC. And then we get you, Pakistan, you get gas from Iran. And we also have another route for us. So this is quite possible. If no, they will find a way to organize everything, bypassing sanctions, bypassing SWIFT, bypassing the dollar.
Yeah.
This can be done with and from now on, with no problem. And of course, for China, this is very, very important. Coming back to the escape from Malacca, the whole syndrome, they are examining everything that is happening in Hormuz as the preamble for what could happen in Malacca.
Exactly.
They know that the Americans will go for Malacca sooner or later, and they have been preparing for this for almost 20 years. But it's always great to have an extra connectivity corridor.
No doubt.
Another steel umbilical cord.
Yeah.
From Iran, Pakistan, China. And considering that Iran-Pakistan relations now are very, very good. And the best way for Iran stuff to get to China and vice versa is via Pakistan. Why not a gas pipeline?
The only risk with Pakistan for me is always that they're so controlled by the military-industrial complex in America. There's always that risk.
Yes. That's terrible.
Yeah. If there wasn't for that, I think it would have been an easy decision, and that's always the risk.
Much easier, exactly. But our friend Munir, oh my God, it's tough. Huh?
Exactly.
It's an extension of the Pentagon, essentially.
Exactly. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so another question I got for you is last question is we spoke about this last time, was the 6 different trade routes into Pakistan. There was a report yesterday, and it sounds like I'm talking about Pakistan, but it's because you're the expert on trade routes. And then the second thing is there was a report yesterday that Iranian oil will now be going through Pakistani ports as opposed to Iranian ports.
This is when I saw that, Suleiman, it's another thing. We in our professional life we have favorite subjects. Gwadar for me was a mega favorite subject for years. You know why I never managed to get there? Because they were telling me, no, it's too sensitive for foreigners. It's too dangerous. We cannot give you a permit. So I could do the northern Karakoram, but I could never do the southern Karakoram through Balochistan all the way to Gwadar. For instance, at the time of 9/11, I was in Balochistan all the time, no problem. But of course, these last few years, no, it's too complicated. Balochistan Liberation Movement. I interviewed these guys many years ago, Suleiman. Can you believe it?
What did they say?
Balochistan Liberation Movement, BLM.
What did they say? Well, how was that? What did they say to you?
Well, they were trying to pose as diplomats, but after 40 minutes or so, you could see what their agenda was, and how infiltrated they were. MI6 and CIA all over the place, These guys are very, very dangerous. And of course, Islamabad, they treat them as dangerous, of course.
Yeah. As does China as well. Sorry,
Exactly.
as does Iran, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I never managed to go to Gwadar, but I was always writing about the strategic importance of Gwadar for the Chinese, and as the deep end of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, right? And now they are fulfilling their role in a completely different way. Now they are becoming an Iranian port in many aspects. It's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And it's something that intuitively you would never expect before. Because there was always this idea that Gwadar is a direct competitor of Chabahar.
Yeah.
They're very close. It's 80 kilometers from one to another. So I was in Chabahar last year when I was doing the documentary about the North-South Transportation Corridor. And we talked a little bit about Gwadar. I said, yeah, you have a competitor across the border, not very far from here. I said, yeah, but it's okay. The Chinese are using Gwadar, but the Indians are using us. And then it was very fun. And then I looked around the port. I saw two Chinese tankers. And I asked the guy, look, the Chinese tankers are coming here as well. Ah, but not so much. They usually go to Bandar Abbas. But some come here as well. They probably get gas from Jask, the Jask port, which is not very far from Chabahar as well. So now it's amazing. Now we see Chabahar almost like a sister port of Gwadar.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story. Amazing story. Yeah.
No, amazing, amazing. Pepe, always love having you. Always appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Suleiman.
No, we love it. We love it. My audience, whenever I'm seeing the chat, you're like the only guest where they're all like so positive about. They're very critical. They're a very critical bunch, but they like you a lot. So
excellent. One day we should do a Pakistan special, Suleiman. I worked a lot in Pakistan, and I'm very fond of Pakistan, and I miss it.
We should definitely do it. We should definitely do it. That would be awesome. but much love to you, Pepe. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? People can find. I know your X page. I'm gonna put it on here, which is Pepe Escobar.
Yes,
and
thank you. Yes, because usually my X page and my Telegram channel. Then I put all the links, and I suggest a lot of stuff for people to read as well. Other analysts, analysis, special reports, etc.
Brilliant. Everybody follow Pepe. I already saw the last two articles. They were really brilliant. Much love to you, Pepe. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. All the best, Suleiman.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
That was Pepe. Guys, give him a follow. Make sure you're following him. Make sure you're sharing him. Make sure you're following him. And guys, we've got another interview coming straight away. So be ready for that. Don't leave. But like this video, share this video, comment in the main section. What's your thoughts on what Pepe had to say? Pepe said Iran's still not trying to get into a confrontation in the Strait of Hormuz. Give me your thoughts in the comments. What you think. Like, comment, and share. And comment in the main section. Such a knowledgeable guy. So much information. So open knowledge. And especially when you're talking, it's like you're talking to someone who has real in-depth knowledge. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're going to have a Lebanese reporter on next. But just before we get him on, I need to give you the news because it's a huge news information and I don't want you to miss out on the news. I would never do that to you. So I'm reading that there's been a 6th wave of attacks on the UAE right now. So let me just give you the news quickly. I can see the Israelis are jumping in on this. Naftali Bennett's already made a comment. Iranian military sources say if UAE becomes a plaything for Israel, they will learn a lesson they will never forget. Quote, no official threat has been issued by the Emirates so far, and what is being said at the moment are reports in the media's quoting sources. However, if the Emiratis become a plaything for Israel and make a mistake, they will learn a lesson they will never forget. If the UAE takes an unwise decision, all its interests will become targets for Iran, and no point of Emirati facilities will be safe. The military source also said the UAE knows that it is sitting in a very fragile and delicate glass house, and insecurity is absolute poison for it. If it wants to repeat the mistake of the 40-day war, we will completely abandon restraint and treat this Zionist nest as part of the Zionist regime. No greater words have been spoken, no accurate statements have been said, and no warnings better than this have been stated. Russia declares a ceasefire with Ukraine between May the 8th and May the 9th. We also hear that there's a 7th wave of attacks going towards the UAE. CENTCOM is saying guided missile destroyer USS Pinckney observed a merchant ship vessel while on patrol enforcing the US blockade against Iran. As of today, they claim 50 commercial vessels have been directed by the US forces to ensure compliance. If you read my Substack article, I demonstrate on there that real number is only 8. They're lying. I saying that number, it's not true. Large groups of ILGC speedboats are patrolling near the port of Jask, Iran. You know, this is something Pepe mentioned in terms of one of the key port areas. Iran, Trump said to Fox, Iran will be blown off the face of the earth if they attack U.S. ships guiding vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. And Trump made this statement. I was trying to quickly look at it while I was interviewing Pepe, but I didn't want to be disrespectful, so I only saw like the word South Korea in there. But let me read it to you. Quote, Trump said, and totally ignored UAE because I quickly flash read it, and I didn't see the word UAE in there at all. Iran has taken some shots at unrelated nations. Bruv, he's not even giving you the UAE the respect to even mention the name. He's not even giving the UAE. East Israel. Have some respect. Have some decency. He mentions Israel even when he doesn't need to. And he doesn't even mention your nation. This is so embarrassing. Anyway, quote, Iran has taken shots at unrelated nations with respect to the ship movement Project Freedom, including a South Korean cargo ship. Perhaps it's time for South Korea to come and join the mission. We've shot down seven small boats, as they like to call them, fast boats. It's all they have left. Other than the South Korean ship, there has been at this moment no damage going through the strait. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Chairman of Joint Chief of Staff Dan Kane will have a news conference tomorrow morning. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I mentioned that the UAE is planning, they claim, a strong retaliatory strike. We also, to continue giving you the news, for the crying, they're crying that they've not been mentioned. This is so funny. Okay, CENTCOM say vessels currently in the Arabian Gulf represent 87 countries from around the world, and as President mentioned, they are merely neutral and innocent bystanders. Over the last 12 hours, we reached out to a dozen of the ships and shipping companies to encourage traffic flow through the Strait of Hormuz, consistent with the President's intent to help guide safely through the narrow trade corridor. That's hilarious. That's what Pepe said, right? And Larry, he was like, they're going to ring them and be like, please, guys, you know, it's safe, come through, come through. And then the ship's going to have to make a decision whether it wants to take the risk or not, which is crazy. What else? Explosions are being reported in Abu Dhabi. The Iranian first VP said, managing the Strait of Hormuz is the country's legitimate right. In January, the enemy entered the field with the aim of creating instability and polarization in society. But with the system's unity building approach, this project was completely thwarted. Iran does not seek war, but if imposed, it will respond decisively. The process of rebuilding damaging homes and commercial units have begun and must continue with the high priority. Jerusalem Post is saying Israel is locked and loaded and ready to strike Iran. According to official, Netanyahu held a security meeting and they are preparing for all scenarios. Well, let's see if they back their boys up in the UAE. More strikes are going towards UAE right now. And that's the latest news. So that's the latest news on that. Lots of strikes. And it's not looking good for the UAE. We've got now coming on a Lebanese journalist. So we're going to bring him on now in a second. In the meantime, guys, retweet the tweet in the nest and the video. I've put the video in the nest. So there's 2 tweets in the nest. It's the link for the it's a link for the YouTube live as well as, and now I'm about to put in the actual Twitter live as well. If you can retweet that Twitter live for me as well, that would be awesome. Let's try and get as many people in there as possible. That's showing 8 or 9,000 at the moment. Okay, let's get the journalist in. That's the latest news. You've got it. And after this, we'll have Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar as well. Hi, Mohammed. How are you doing? How are you? We can't hear you. We'll just wait for Mohammed to sort out his audio. In the meantime, while Mohammed is sorting out the video, make sure you're liking this YouTube video. Make sure you commenting on the main section. Let everybody know about it. Let your friends and family know about it. Wow, I'm looking at the videos coming out from Fujairah, and it is...
Test, test. Can you hear me
We can hear you now. We can hear you. How are you?
now? Still alive. And you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So first of all, I just want to welcome MOHAMAD KLAIT. He is a Lebanese journalist on the ground in Lebanon. He's here to speak about the war that is being conducted right now by Israel on the Lebanese people. Mohammed, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. How are you?
Well, as I said, I'm still alive, still breathing, trying to stay strong. This is the second war. Well, basically, it's just one war that we've been going through since 2023. Uh, we've had two so-called ceasefires, but it was just a one-sided ceasefire from the side of Lebanon,
Yeah.
not from the side of Israel. Israel has taken advantage of this so-called ceasefire agreement to wreak more havoc, to destroy houses, to conduct an ecocide, just destroying the heritage, the towns on the borderline, and the depth so far in the depth of like around 6 to 7 kilometers in the Lebanese south.
Yeah. Now, so I want to talk about a lot of the things that's going on in Lebanon just to make the public aware of what's happening. Over the last day or so, we've been seeing significant Israeli strikes on Lebanon. But just earlier today, we saw a serious incident in South Lebanon. I believe a number of Israeli soldiers were hit by the resistance, a major casualty event. What's your information or thoughts on what's going on there?
Yeah, these operations have been going on since the start of this so-called ceasefire, the second ceasefire that we're having in the past 3 years. Uh, Unlike the first one, where it was only one-sided, where Israel was just having the liberty to target Lebanese civilians, to demolish houses and entire towns all along the Lebanese borders, or how we call them, the first line of towns directly facing the occupied Palestinian territories. But in this ceasefire, there has been a retaliatory targeting of Israeli soldiers, Israeli tanks, armored vehicles, and as well as contractors, Israeli contractors that have been working on destroying and demolishing civilian houses, entire quarters and towns as deep as I mentioned, 6 to 7 kilometers in the Lebanese south. Uh, so, like I said, it's unlike the first ceasefire where these things were happening without any type of countermeasures. Now we're seeing no, there are countermeasures inside the Lebanese territories, which is just to put more pressure on the Israelis. First of all, to retreat back to the occupied Palestinian borders, to their outposts outside of Lebanon, and at the same time to put to put a point that anything that they would do, targeting civilians, the massacres that they have been doing, the demolishing of entire neighborhoods, the occupation of entire occupation of Lebanese towns, this has to stop, and this will not go unpunished.
And so what we're seeing is, and you mentioned about the ceasefire, right? So let's go back. In 2024, there was a ceasefire. They attempted to invade Lebanon. They failed. Hezbollah pushed them back, but they did kill the supreme leader and do the pager attack. There was a retreat. There was a ceasefire. The resistance said, look, they told essentially the Lebanese government that it's their job to protect Lebanon. But what's your thoughts on the fact that during that period, they continue to bomb Lebanon every single day almost. They continue to harm innocent civilians. And In addition to that, they were beginning to occupy a number of areas within South Lebanon, at least 5 locations. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same old thing that we've been suffering from Israel ever since the foundation of the entity back in 1948. They don't see Lebanon as a sovereign state. They see Lebanon as part of their colonial expansionist plan. Uh, Sadly enough, not all Lebanese see that. We have a long, bloody history with the Israelis, and bluntly, they just say like Netanyahu and members of their cabinet. Not even it's not only Netanyahu, even like the cabinets from before, Ehud Olmert, and whoever they've always had Lebanon as part of the greater Israeli plan. They've always seen it was never the problem of Hezbollah's weapons arsenal or ballistic missiles or whatever. They've occupied Lebanon, they've launched campaigns against Lebanon even before the foundation of Hezbollah back in 1982. They have conducted numerous massacres before the foundation of Hezbollah, before there was even a thought of creating an armed resistance in Lebanon. I would mention, for example, the massacre of Hula back in 1949 or 48, I don't remember the exact date, where they massacred the people of the town, a border town, just for the sake of killing them. Uh, so yeah, the thing is that what they are trying to do now is imposing an occupation, trying to brainwash through the mainstream media, the international mainstream media, that yeah, this is a preemptive attack to expand their defense and security borders, whatever, in order to maintain the security of their northern borders and their northern settlements, and to disarm Hezbollah, which is something moronic and even illogical to actually believe in. As I've mentioned, it was never the problem of Hezbollah. Hezbollah, in the end, whether we agree with them in politics or ideology or whatever, in the end, they are Lebanese citizens. They are formed during times of occupation back in 1982 when Israel occupied Lebanon, reaching to Beirut, the capital. There were several forms of armed resistance back then in the country. You had the leftists, you have the pan-Arab, you have the communists, you have the Islamists, even Christians who were fighting against an Israeli occupation. It happened that Hezbollah was the strongest back then, and it was able to force a retreat of the Israeli occupation until the year 2000. We had 6 years of peace. Then Israel launched another aggression back in 2006. When Hezbollah stood against the Israelis back then, we had from 2006 until 2023 years of peace. Israel knew Hezbollah was a force to be reckoned with, and yeah, so they tried to work on the internal conflict in order to weaken Hezbollah from the inside, and that's what we've also been seeing right now. You have right-wing political parties that actually support the Israeli dogma of occupying Lebanon in order to save them, quote unquote, from Hezbollah's terrorism. But what we see, I mean, I myself, I am a southerner. My town has been
What's your town?
70%. I'm from Bint Jbeil, the
Oh, the
town that
vintage
has
bell,
been
the
called,
whole, yeah.
yeah, exactly, that has been called the Stalingrad of southern Lebanon because it has withstood the Israeli occupation during with this war. They couldn't take full control of the town during the war. They had to call in a ceasefire, a one-sided ceasefire, in order to demolish 70% of the town, completely destroying the heritage, the history, even the official buildings of the town that basically most of the nearby towns rely on. And And yeah, and it's been I mean it's been a heavy, sentimentally heavy thing to watch, to be honest. And it's and yeah, we've been praying that this war will be over soon. As I've mentioned, we have a lot of differences with the ideology of Hezbollah, with the politics, but in the end, what we've been seeing them doing, whether it be Hezbollah or the communists or right wings or whatever, anyone who's fighting any Israeli occupation or any occupation for that matter, we root for, because now it's not about if it's against Hezbollah. It's not Israel against Hezbollah, a lone political party. No, it's Israel against the entire region, starting from Lebanon. There's a huge menace and danger on the entire country. The existence of the entire country lies on a few fighters who are blocking the way in front of Israel.
Yeah, yeah. Now you mentioned Bint Jabal, where you're from, and you mentioned how they were only able to take that through a ceasefire. Um, and even then, they've not been able to take it. But I know they've been destroying a lot of homes in Bint Jabal. But other places that they've destroyed is a number of Christian areas. I noticed they'd bombed Eretun, I believe, and various other Lebanese areas, which are Christian predominantly. They destroyed the statue of Jesus. They bombed a nun in Yarun. A close friend of mine is from Yarun. They bombed a nun's monastery there. They bombed a Christian school in Yarun as well. What's your thoughts on this directed attack on Christian areas and Christian villages by Israel?
I mean, it's an obvious thing that what we have been seeing for the past decades, that was going on in Jerusalem and other predominantly Christian areas in the West Bank or even in Gaza as well, and how they treat the Christians inside the occupied Palestinian territories. It doesn't differ what they have been doing in southern Lebanon. Yaron is the neighbor of Bint Jbeil. I've been there several times. I've seen the monasteries. They have, even then during the last war in 2024, they have targeted medical workers and the civil defense that were taking Christian, a monastery for refuge in the town of Deir Ghaya. And they don't care about, I mean, in the end, when it comes to the definition of terrorism, they really fall in that because they target civilian areas, they target monasteries, mosques, schools, hospitals, and the thing is that they do that without any regret. They do it just blankly. They do it. They're freaking psychopaths. Especially what we've seen, how what they did with civil defense members with double and triple and quadruple attacks. What we've seen that they have done even in the town of Tire with journalist Amal Khalil,
Yeah.
when they targeted the building that she was in and left her to die, barring any medical workers to come near her. When they just destroyed the statue of Jesus Christ just for the fun and taking photos of it. And this is something that really people should understand. You have to be a complete psychopath to do something like that and take a photo of it and spread it. Even the complete demolition of towns in southern Lebanon, whether it be in the previous ceasefire or in the current ceasefire, so-called ceasefires, that when they destroy entire towns, an entire neighborhood, when you demolish it and film it and with their audio reactions, just enjoying it, saying "woo" the whole time, these are complete psychopaths that we are dealing with here. Um, and this also goes to the Christians in Lebanon, who some of them have fallen into the propaganda that this war is
You're breaking up,
only
Mohammed.
between Iran and Hezbollah,
Yeah.
Israel and the Shiites in the country.
You're just breaking up a little bit. You've just frozen.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but your video has frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but your video is frozen.
Hello?
Okay, we'll just let him reset. While he's resetting, let me give you some breaking news. While Mohammed's resetting, I'll give you some breaking news. The breaking news is this. UAE has now gone to distance learning. They've now moved their entire educational system to distance learning because of basically because they're in a essential war, but they're expecting this to escalate. They said, quote, the Ministry of Education announces the implementation of distance learning from Tuesday, 5th of May 2026 till the end of the week for students, teachers, and administrative staff across nurseries and all public and private schools nationwide. This measure is being taken to ensure the safety and well-being of the educational community. The situation will be reviewed again on Friday, the 8th of May, and the period may be extended. They only done it for a week because they don't want everyone to escape and leave Dubai, because they know now it's too dangerous. But sorry, Mohammed, are you back? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mohammed, can you hear me? We can't hear you right now. You're frozen.
I can hear you. Can you hear now?
No, it's breaking up.
Now?
No. It's like it's a rubber banding. Like I can hear you a little bit, but not properly.
Okay.
Oh, it seems fine now. Oh, speak. It's froze again.
Now? Can you?
Okay, yeah, it's fine now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we have a problem with the internet connection ever since the war started.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was saying like sort of like a call out for the Christians in the country, since the Israeli propaganda has been working on, even some of the Lebanese right-wing propaganda has been working on, that this war is only between Hezbollah and Israel. It's not, Lebanon is not concerned. And we've seen also the government working on this same, in line with this. That and when we say here in Lebanon it's between Hezbollah and Israel, it's basically saying it's only Shia against Israel. So even the Israelis officials, that they have said that the border Christian towns will not be touched. We because they believe in the state, they believe in the presence of official authorities, and they are not supporting the terrorist organization of Hezbollah. But what we've seen, for example, in the town of Dibel, which is also near Bint Jbeil, it's a predominantly Christian town where Israelis, they just went through it in order to reach other towns. But after they left, they have blown up 11 houses in that town. So, and now they have a blockade on the towns of Ramesh, Dibel, and Ain Ibel, which are border towns. They have destroyed monasteries, they have destroyed churches, they have sabotaged several statues for Lady Mary and for Jesus Christ from this war and the last war. So it was never about Israel against Shia or against Hezbollah. It's been always about this expansionist, this colonial, occupational thought that they want to take over the entire country, regardless of who they're fighting with. I mean, back before the foundation of Hezbollah, the resistance groups were formed of Christians from Druze, Sunnis, Shias, communists, leftists, pan-Arab, even fighters that came from different Arab countries to support the Lebanese resistance against the Israeli occupation. It was never about Shias and Sunnis or whatever. This is something that the Israelis have used with their mouthpieces, whether it be in Israel or in the West or even in the Arab nations or Lebanon specifically, in order to create this division, this sectarian division, just in order to ease their plot and to divert the idea that they are not an occupational force. They are only here to liberate the Lebanese from a terrorist group.
Okay, now one of the things is Trump said in a statement when he'd extended the ceasefire that he was going to help assist the current Lebanese government, President Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, in terms of to disarm Hezbollah. A, what's your thoughts on that? B, do you think that that would succeed? And do you think this could cause a civil war?
Well, this is what they're aiming for because there are two takes on this. The first take, well, we'll start with the last one. Is it going to aim for a civil war? Basically, this is what they're trying to do, whether it be in the media, whether it be with political decisions. I mean, I think it's the most absurd thing that any government would do is that from the previous war and from this war, is that you would call for the only group that's able to block any Israeli continuation of their occupation or any Israeli advancement in the south, that would call for them to, okay, just take out your weapons. You don't need your weapons anymore. It's absurd. And we all know here in Lebanon, the Lebanese military is not a strong military. It's a weak military. They don't have enough weapons. They don't have anti-aircraft defense systems. We don't even have warplanes. We have two warplanes, and they date back to the 50s. And the U.S. gave them to us, and they were used back in the Vietnam War. Our tanks, they barely were able to fight against outlaw groups, whether it be in Palestinian refugee camps or in the east when ISIS was taking control of some Lebanese areas. And the Lebanese military, I mean, in its core, okay, everyone wants its military to be a strong military, but the problem with the Lebanese military itself, it's very politicized, or it follows a political decision. So the problem is that we have here, it doesn't have an independent decision to do anything. When people said that with this new government that the Lebanese military is going to take control of the southern borders, we actually, as Southerners, we were excited. I mean, we wanted to see that. We wanted to see the government have its full authority all over the country, even in the south. But what did the military do when Israel launched its attack? They fled. They retreated. They left the people, even the towns that are not, there was no presence of Hezbollah. They had no one to defend them. At least in the Shia towns, Hezbollah was still present. But the Sunni towns, the Christian towns, because of the sectarian sensitivity, Hezbollah does not operate there. So they had no one to defend them. There was no military. They all retreated back. They left the people unarmed against a death machine called the Israeli military. And now the second take is that, as I mentioned, the Lebanese military follows political decisions. The governments from this one and the previous ones and the one even before, they have weakened the Lebanese military. The Lebanese military has been working ever since the Civil War, maybe since its foundation, just to stand between two fighting sides, two internal fighting sides. It's kind of like a referee. They did that during the Civil War when the government wanted for in a certain area that the two combating sides to stop shooting at each other. They would just put the military in between and they would stop. That's basically the role of the military. But is the military well equipped? Not at all. Why? Because first of all, you had the financial crisis back in 2019, which weakened the military a lot. They used to get wages up to $50, $150. Now I think they get paid per person maybe $400. They still get aid from this place and that place. And about their military equipment, well, guess who supports the military and its military equipment? It's the U.S. And only the U.S. and to a certain part France They're the only two sides that are allowed to give the military its equipment. And what type of equipment do we get? We get the equipment that the US, for example, as I've mentioned, the Cessna warplanes that have been used in the Vietnam War back in the 50s. We have the armored vehicles that the US has used in its occupation for Iraq back in 2003. Mortar shells, M16 used, all have been used in American operations all around the globe. So basically, we're getting garbage. What does Israel get? F-35s, state-of-the-art missiles, howitzer. I mean, it's there's no balance. And when Iran and Russia and China have declared that they are ready to arm the Lebanese military, to support the Lebanese military, some have said that we are ready to do that with no exchange whatsoever, or some economic deals in exchange of supporting the military. Guess who told us no? The US itself. The US doesn't keep the internal peace, but weak not to be able to stand in front of Israel or any outside threat. So who do people turn to? I mean, I am all for local official authorities to be in control of the security of the country. Anyone who wants a sane, stable state would want that. But in the end, this is a state of affairs that the governments have created, that the US has imposed. Israel also has a hand in this. And so, who do Southerners turn to? They would turn to a group, an armed group that that has no that isn't tied with the governmental decisions, that isn't tied with the U.S. embassy's conditions, and they are able to get their own ballistic missiles and drones and anti-tank rockets and all that. This is why the people in the south believe in Hezbollah more than that they would believe in the military. And it's not just Hezbollah. If any group, any military group or armed group in the country had the same thing and was defending the Southerners from any Israeli threats, as we've also seen in the East when Hezbollah worked with the military against ISIS and were able to repel the ISIS occupation and terrorism from Bekaa in the East, people put their belief in Hezbollah. Not only Shias of the Bekaa, even the Sunnis of the Bekaa, even the Christians of the Bekaa, because they have seen that when things get serious, they are the ones who are actually capable of deterring any foreign threat.
And so, just rounding up this part of the conversation, when you look at what's happening in Lebanon, there is this attempt to invade, this attempt to occupy. There's put a buffer zone of 8 kilometers in, and then they want the military zone up until the Litani River. How do you think Israel's doing on the ground? Do you think they're failing? Do you think they're succeeding in fighting Hezbollah? What do you think's going on from the ground battle perspective? And then how do you foresee this going?
Well, well, to be fair, and also to be objective, like on the ground, Israel was able to take in the ceasefire what it was not able to take during wartime, and they are the ones who rushed to get this ceasefire because they were not able. I mean, when you think of it, military wise, you have one of the strongest military in the Middle East, the one who is most armed, who is most politically supported, who has amnesty and the liberty to do whatever it wants in the region. I mean, for God's sake, in the past 3 years, Israel has bombed, I think, 6 to 7 Arab countries uh, with total impunity to do whatever they want. And when you put the balance in a military context in comparison to Hezbollah, Israel is a monster, but they were not able to get what they want easily during the wartime. So they were able to get it during the ceasefire, whether it be in destroying towns, finding the tunnels and the warehouses and whatnot. But even though when you see what they say in their media, that yeah, we totally occupy this town and we have found weapons of Hezbollah in this school and in this hospital, and you see that they're actually using a hunting rifle. They found hunting rifles. They're taking pictures next to them. Uh, so it's kind of like a photo op. And when you come to analyze these several photos that they're doing, what they're doing on the ground, okay, you're destroying the civilian houses. What does that weigh in military? What does that weigh in politics? So does this military campaign that they have been doing for the past 3 years, how does it weigh in the internal politics of Israel? It's a huge fail for Netanyahu. I mean, in the end, is it worth it to put their military? I mean, as Israelis would say, is it worth it to put all this military firepower that we have basically depleted our defense system, depleted our attack system, and we have soldiers being killed every day, soldiers being injured. That what is their military were able to say, because in the end we know that the Israeli media is controlled by the military. In the end it's a police state, and this is what they are allowed to talk about. So God knows how many dead soldiers do they have here in the south. Uh, when you weigh all this and you see that have they failed or have they succeeded, in my analysis, the tip goes towards the failure. Because in the end, you've seen that inside politically, there's a huge division, and most of the political parties are now lining up for the election against Netanyahu. This war, the war against Iran, even their occupation in Syria, the sentiment, the global sentiment against Israel and against the Israeli military globally, it could be the end of Netanyahu's political life.
So we've got this breaking news, and it's a statement from one of your ministers of government, Fuad Makhzoumi, and he said the following quote: "We condemn in the strongest terms the renewed Iranian attacks on the UAE today, and
He's an MP actually. He's
yeah,
not a minister. Yeah.
yeah. And we affirm that these aggressive acts constitute a flagrant violation of international law
Yeah.
and a direct threat to regional peace, requiring a firm Arab and international stance to deter them and to put an end to them. Full solidarity with the UAE, its leadership, and its people in confronting these threats. And we emphasize that the security of the Gulf is an integral part of the security and stability of the entire region." What's your thoughts on Fawad Makhzoumi's statement?
Yeah, well, I wish that Fuad Makhzoumi was able to talk the same level of intensity for the past 3 years when it comes to Israel occupying Lebanon and doing all of these massacres, the ecocide, the destruction of civilian houses. But when it comes to Iran targeting any Gulf state, it's not just the UAE, any Gulf state and whatsoever, and at any level, yeah, he becomes very active in his statements. Um, in the end, I mean, I do understand, as I've mentioned, that we may have, or we do have political differences with Hezbollah in the internal affairs, no doubt. But when it comes to the safety of the country, when it comes to sovereignty, when it comes to an occupying force taking control of 6 to 7% of the country's geography and bombing the rest with total impunity, with no public or official statements against this, or proper work, official work against this. It's a saddening situation. It's not something that basically surprises us as Southerners. I'm talking now. The Lebanon has been founded that Beirut is the center and the rest are just an extension of Beirut. The farther you go away from Beirut, the less development you have, the less authority or security measures that you would see. Beirut has always been the center of attention in the country. For example, this ceasefire is only concerned with Beirut. Israel is not allowed to target Beirut. That's the only thing in the ceasefire. But is it allowed to target in the south? Apparently, for the government, yeah, it's okay. You can target in the south. You can do whatever you want. There have been massacres for the past 2 3 weeks. I mean, last week I was in the town of Jibshit. The day before there was a massacre. 6 persons were killed in their houses. An 80-year-old man with his wife and his daughter-in-law and his grandchildren. Grandchildren, the oldest one is 6 years old. They were bombed in their house in the middle of the night. We went to their funeral. The next day they bombed the same town. They did the same massacres. And that's just one of the towns. In 3 days, they have conducted 250 airstrikes in the south. Have we seen a public statement? Not at all, especially from members of parliament such as Fuad Makhzoumi. Because for them, sadly enough, these are representatives of the people, but they are only representatives of part of the people. And basically, they're representatives of themselves. Because when you see that members of parliaments who could issue laws that would condemn the communication with Israel, that would condemn or forcing the government to condemn or taking actual actions in the International Criminal Court against Israel, as we could have done in the issues of killing journalists and civil defense members, because it's been all recorded. It's been all archived. It's been all documented, whether it be my friend Reuters cameraman Isam Abdullah, whether it be recently with Amal Khalil, or the civil defense members in Mayfadoun who were killed with quadruple taps. There was an airstrike. A civil defense team went to the rescue mission. They were targeted again. Another civil defense went again, and they were targeted a third time. Then another defense team went, and they were targeted 4 times. And this was all recorded. But did the government do anything? No, they're working like the UN now. They were just giving out statistics. They were giving out food aid and trying to give shelter for sort of like give shelters for the people. And they say that we can fight Israel with diplomacy. That is the stupidest thing that you would ever hear any government would do in times of war. That when people are being killed by a war machine, by a genocidal maniac that we've just seen 3 years ago conduct a huge genocide in Gaza on live TV, and still continuing the starvation and the blockade of the Gaza. People are being killed every 10 seconds in Gaza. People are being killed every 4 minutes here in Lebanon, but you don't see any official statement.
No doubt. Mohammed, I want to thank you for taking your time out to letting us know exactly what's going on in Lebanon. I'm putting a bit of effort in to make people aware and cognizant, because I do feel like people are forgetting what's happening in Lebanon. And these Israelis are doing a huge amount of evil. We've got a huge amount of viewership here. 15,000 people on one stream and a few others on the other. My question to you is this, Mohammed: where can people find your work?
Well, I'm mostly I'm on Instagram. I work for several media outlets as a freelancer. I try to spread the word as much as I can. I also write in the UK for the Canary. But mostly they're analytical articles. You can find me on Instagram. It's at KLEITM, KLEITM. And basically that's mostly where I place my work.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking your time out. Everyone should just follow you, but thank you so much for letting us know exactly what's going on in Lebanon.
Thank you a lot.
Appreciate you. Thank you. That was Mohamad Klait. Do give him a follow on Instagram. Great interview, great information. The Israelis are conducting destruction in Lebanon. And so it was very important that we got him on board to tell us exactly what's going on. I'm going to give you some news. But first of all, like this video, share this video, comment in the main section. What's your thoughts about what's going on in Lebanon? What's your thoughts about the Israeli actions? Do you think Hezbollah is winning, or do you think that they need some more boom boom. Let me know your thoughts. Naftali Bennett came out with a statement. This is what he said. Naftali Bennett, remember MOHAMAD KLAIT just mentioned him. Naftali Bennett is on the other side to Netanyahu. This is why people are like, oh, Netanyahu. Let's get Netanyahu out. Israel will be golden. Or Netanyahu's trying to save himself from the trial. No. Netanyahu or not, these people will act in the same manner. You know what Naftali Bennett said about Lebanon? He posted, sorry, my back's. He's posted about Lebanon, and he said, Netanyahu's not doing enough destruction. He's holding our soldiers back. Naftali Bennett, who's meant to be left-wing, or more left-wing, because he's made an alliance with Yair Lapid, who is the left-wing Zionist, he's saying they're not doing enough. They need to do more in Lebanon. He's saying, I spoke to the soldiers and they feel like Netanyahu's holding us back. So just think about how evil, maniacal, genocidal Netanyahu is. And despite that being the case, Naftali Bennett is saying, you're too soft. And then you're all telling me it's Netanyahu. You're all telling me this is all about his trial. It doesn't matter about his trial. It doesn't matter that it's Netanyahu. These people would act in the same manner. Anyway, this is the statement by Naftali Bennett. But in Lebanon, that's what he said. He said, quote, the UAE, our strategic ally, has just been attacked by Iran. This, in effect, a declaration of renewal of Iran's war against the allies of the United States of America and Israel across the region. This regional alliance is vital to our security and the security of the moderate partners in the Middle East and the Gulf. Iran continues to try to intimidate the region and poses a threat to global security. We stand with our ally. Well, actually, that's not even true. Because Lebanon was included in the deal and Israel's continued to bomb Lebanon almost every single day. So actually, it's Israel who broke the deal if you want to look at it from the reality of the situation. I also want to mention this from Joe Kent. I'm just getting it up because I saw his statement and I wanted to read it to you guys. Joe Kent says, the sooner we realize, this is the guy who was part of the intelligence, right? He was under Tulsi Gabbard. He said the following. By the way, we've got Anthony Aguilar coming on in 10 minutes. So don't go away. Like this video, share this video, let everyone know about it. But he had this statement to make. He said, the sooner we recognize the truth that there's no military solution to the conflict in Iran, the better off the United States of America will be. Sheer military force cannot reopen the Strait of Hormuz without escalating the war and sucking us into another endless, bloody quagmire that delivers zero benefit to our people. We can't get rid of the emboldened government in Tehran, regardless of how many leaders we kill. If we try, we will end up with a government of failed state worse than what we have now. The inevitable reality is this. We will have to cut a deal with Iran. We can be pragmatic and do it now on our terms, or we can keep listening to the same neocons and the Israeli government who got us into this mess, only to cut the same deal after we've lost even more. Recognizing that we've hit the point of diminishing returns and pulling out now is not a weakness. It is a strength, and it's the right thing to do for the American people. That was Joe Kent, who left the Trump regime in protest. So yeah, that's that. Let me just continue giving the news. The footage coming out of Fujairah is basically on fire. Fujairah is completely... Oh, oops. I retweeted the wrong thing. Fujairah is completely on fire. Wait, huh? Oh yeah, sorry, no, it's not. Okay, Fujairah is completely on fire right now. Let me just give you some more of the news. Okay, 1 second. Okay, chairman of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee in the Knesset to his Emirati counterparts said, quote, Israel supports you, and the Iranians will not have the last word in this war. China is unprecedented defiance of U.S. sanctions against Iran have sparked major confrontation. Unlike in the past when China tried to circumvent U.S. sanctions unofficially or through intermediaries, it has now openly and officially declared that it does not recognize unilateral U.S. sanctions against third countries, such as Iran or Russia, and has increased trade with these countries to an unprecedented level. The U.S. government has threatened to impose secondary sanctions on Chinese banks. However, sanctioning major Chinese banks would cause a massive shock in global financial markets and a collapse of the global supply chain. This move by Beijing is no longer just a trade rivalry, but a financial Cold War to end dollar hegemony. Okay, Israeli Army Radio is saying Israel is preparing for the possibility of a ceasefire collapse and is also ready to respond immediately to any attack from Iran. The US operation, which began on Monday to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, has been fully coordinated with Israel. The Americans shared operational plans with Israel and raised concerns that Iran might attack ships or countries in the region, a scenario that was realized with Iran's attack on the UAE. These Iranian actions could cause Trump to resume his campaign against the country. Since the beginning of the week, unusual movement of US refueling planes have been observed over Israel, heading to the Persian Gulf with fighter jets ready for immediate action. Okay, and then during that interview, the last interview, we had some more breaking news, which was Abu Dhabi and Jebel Ali port in the explosions in Abu Dhabi and Jebel Ali Airport. So major explosions in Abu Dhabi and Jebel Ali Airport. We are going to be having Anthony Aguilar on in about 10 minutes. So that should be good. A great knowledgeable person, and it will be a great interview. Trump said the following to Fox News. He said, Iran will be wiped off the face of the earth if it attacks American ships carrying out Operation Freedom. Iran has become more flexible in peace negotiations. The American buildup in the region continues. We have weapons and ammunition at a much higher level than we had before. We have the best equipment and military bases all over the world, and we can use them, and we will if necessary. So it's not looking good for him when it comes to that. And it's clear that Iran's attacked UAE based on its allegiance with the United States of America, and the fact that it's facilitated these attacks, it's facilitated its war, and it's facilitated attacks on Iran. And so when the US begins acts of aggression, when the US begins to attack, then it's quite obvious and clear that the response is going to be to attack US allies. And in this case, the US ally is UAE and a major Israeli ally. No, Jebel Ali Port, not airport. Jebel Ali Port and Abu Dhabi. I don't know if it was Abu Dhabi Airport. I read it was Abu Dhabi. I'm seeing so many videos of like destruction in Dubai, and then you have to always double check that is it real or not. We can hope, lest we hope. Okay. So far, no vessels have even attempted to test out the new safe passage set by the US for vessels to pass. I just want everyone to highlight how funny that was, what Pepe was saying. He's so right. What they're basically saying is you need to hog the Omani shores. You need to get on the phone with Oman, risking all this, hiding, trying to make sure Iran doesn't get you. And then you need to tell them that you're going through. Oman's not involved, so you're just like, guess what, I'm going through. And then you sneak through. And he's like, this is how we're going to maintain the blockade. The way that we're going to open the Strait of Hormuz for you guys is to essentially make you run for it. Do a runner. Hope Iran doesn't hit you. If Iran hits you, there's nothing we could do, blood. But if Iran doesn't hit you, you can go, you can hide through. Oman's going to facilitate, but they're not really involved. Just think about what kind of, I think he was right. He said it was like an episode of, what did he say, Monty Python? It literally is. This is crazy that he would think that something like this would work. It is hilarious. Is the mic working? Is the mic fine? Is the mic loud? Let me know. By the way, while we're waiting for Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, just to let you know, tomorrow it's been confirmed. We've got Scott Ritter on at 2 p.m. And then we've got the debate with Rabbi Shmuley at 4 p.m. So just to let you know, those two things are happening. Should be interesting to say the least. A number of people from the UAE, these UAE influencers, these Emirati influencers, have said the following. The Iranian regime will regret it miserably. Amjad Taha, the Zionist, says the Islamic regime in Iran will regret May 4th, 2026. Sorry, the Iranian regime will reject, Islamic regime in Iran will reject May 4, 2026, just as Hamas did after October 7th. That's a promise. Mira Zaid said tonight it will be bright. Saeed Amiri said Iran will regret this. And Sultan Washahi says tonight will be a tough night for Iran. Well, let's see. Let's see if that happens. Let's see if you do give Iran a tough night. Visuals coming out of Hezbollah fighters ambushing the Golani Brigade in South Lebanon. And Israel has had to withdraw multiple divisions from Lebanon due to Hezbollah's growing FPV drone threat. The irony is these drones only cost like $50 or $100 and they can produce thousands of them, and Israel doesn't have no answer to it. If you watched my video on this about Lebanon, I did explain this, and if you read the Substack article, it's also explained in there as well. 1 second. Okay. That's hilarious. They said Iranian monarchists are now, the ones who had Israeli flags are now got the UAE flags on their bios as well. Leave Dubai now. Leave Dubai now. If there's any piece of advice I can give you guys, save yourself. Get out of Dubai. Okay, and let me just see if there's any more news, and then we'll get into the interview. What time is it? Yeah, Anthony Aguilar should be coming on any minute now. So that should be really, really good. Lindsey Graham is very happy. He said, "Dear Mr. President, the combination of Iran's attack against the UAE's vital infrastructure and continued attacks on international shipping, including the South Korean cargo ship, more than justifies a big, strong, and short response to inflict further damage on Iran's warship. The UAE has been a champion ally in this fight, doing everything that has been asked of them and beyond. Iran's recent brazen attack." So look, he admits that the UAE has done everything they've asked for and gone beyond. Iran's recent brazen attack against the UAE tells me a lot about who's in charge in Iran and the chance of a diplomatic solution anytime soon. A forceful response on behalf of our ally UAE will reinforce that America is back as a reliable ally. So he said they're gone. They were gone as a reliable ally. Now you could come back. That's hilarious. helping to further wash away the damage caused by the Biden administration on this front. I mean, I would say, like, I'm not a fan of Biden, but I would say the amount of damage that Trump has done to the American empire, to the American allies, is innumerable. What's happening to South Korea? What's happening to Japan? What's happening to Taiwan? What's happening to UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain? It's not looking good. This is what happens when you're an ally of the United States of America and Israel, and then United States of America is controlled by Israel. Bahrain, Jordan, and Egypt have all condemned Iran's attack on the UAE and said they stand in solidarity with them. Well, that's not surprising. Zionist regimes do Zionist regime stuff. Wait, is the X okay? Why is people saying X is down? Is this guy just making it up? Why would you do that? Like, these people come in the chat and they just lie and say, oh, something wrong with the stream. Like, it's actually really annoying. Let me see this guy, some Zio bet. Yeah, it's first time he literally comes and he basically has to lie. It's really annoying. Okay, what more news have we got? Lots of news, guys. Lots and lots of news. U.S. crude closed at 106. That's WTI, I believe. People were saying Brent crude is over or close to $120. So it's not looking good for the market. And happened on Monday. Okay, so an Iranian military source told the Sneem news agency if the UAE takes any unwise action against Iran, all of its interests become legitimate targets for Tehran. So they're saying if you try and respond, the harm will be innumerable. Thanks to RKM with a level 1 membership. Welcome to the moral resistance. You are the moral resistance. Beatrix is not. She wasn't even excommunicated, but you're part of the moral resistance. Welcome to the family. Okay, we have got Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar on. Let's get him up. Let me change the thing first. And guys, while I'm doing this, I'm going to put the streams already in the nest, both of them, the tweets in the nest, as is the other one. So do retweet that. Okay, I'm just gonna have to do it like this because it doesn't fit. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna. So everyone retweet the stream, the X live stream, as well as the space. Sorry, as well as the video in the nest. Sorry, the link in the nest. If you could do both of them for me, that would be brilliant. Okay, we're gonna get into this. Hi, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you for having me on. There's a lot to discuss.
There is indeed. Thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. I just want to welcome the audience. I want to welcome Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. And this guy is a Green Beret. He has dedicated a large amount of his life in service of the United States of America. He's been against this war because of the harm he does to his country. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, thank you. But the UAE isn't doing great. We've seen, and we're going to talk about a few different things, but the news coming out right now is there's been almost 6 waves of attacks on the UAE. Jebel Ali port has been hit. Fujairah oil refinery has been hit. They've been suffering a lot of damage. What's your thoughts on that?
Things are very active in the Gulf of Oman and in the UAE today. Just a few hours ago, the United States U.S. Central Command launched Project Freedom, to guarantee movement through the Strait of Hormuz, which at onset has already failed. The United Arab Emirates are receiving missile fire drone attacks from Iran. And the United States USS Canberra, which is a littoral combat ship mine clearing Navy vessel, has received fire from Iran. Potentially has been struck, we don't know yet, but has definitely received shots fired. And when you look at the small geography of where all this is occurring, it's reminiscent to me of August of 1964 and the Gulf of Tonkin in Vietnam, which ultimately led to the United States' further intervention at scale. Hundreds of thousands of US soldiers deployed to Vietnam in this security operation in response to that incident. This has all the makings in the last 12 hours of that scenario strategically, geographically, militarily. So, why the UAE? Well, we do know that the United States has projected power from the UAE. In fact, not far from the UAE, just a little bit north, you've got Qatar. And just slightly north of that, that little speck of island in the Persian Gulf, you have Bahrain, headquarters of the Fifth Fleet. This ship, the USS Canberra, littoral combat ship that was struck, or at least received fire or was attacked, emanated from Bahrain. Do they refuel and port in the UAE? Yes, they do. So, from a military standpoint, is the UAE a legitimate and credible military target in a naval blockade? Yes, it is. Is a naval blockade, of which the United States is currently implementing, an act of war? Yes, it is. The UAE and its alliances with its neighbors, such as Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, was not necessarily based on alliance or long-term friendship. Tenable alliance. In fact, the UAE and Saudi Arabia have a lot more of not in common than they do have in common. But what kept them together, at least at an economic level, was OPEC. And the UAE, as of May 1st, is out of OPEC. And here we are on the 4th of May with naval warfare happening just off their coast and strikes from Iran. Where does the UAE turn? Who comes to their aid? And I think what we're going to see in the next coming hours and day, it's likely going to be Israel. And that then will draw the United States in further. And in the next 48 hours, we're going to see large-scale escalation, different than what we saw in February and March, but direct naval confrontation. And it's all very alarming. It's very concerning. This is going to get a lot worse before we ever can hope that there will be negotiated settlement or peace.
So, let's just break this down, because there was a statement from Trump, and let's get into the naval blockade thing. He said that he was going to basically escort a number of vessels out. We weren't too sure, but then the CENTCOM statement came out. It clarified, yes, they're going to be using 15,000 soldiers, battle cruisers, various other things. But then the Post today basically said that they wanted vessels to hog the coast of the Gulf of Oman to VHF Oman. And from what I understand, Oman isn't even agreed to this. And so it's almost like just taking the risk yourself. What's your thought on this entire operation?
Project Freedom is nothing more than Project Fantasy. We're not doing anything. If you look at the statements from the CENTCOM commander, he didn't use the word escort. He used the word guide. What does that mean? We aren't physically escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz with Navy vessels. We're guiding them. We're using a deployment of 15,000 soldiers, multiple types of aircraft, land-based and sea-based, drones and unmanned aerial vehicles to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz. So what does that look like? The U.S. Navy guides them by communicating with that ship directly, either over VHF or UHF, in the case of once they pass through the strait and you have the actual line of sight, you could go to VHF to, as you said, hugging the coastline. But some of these vessels can't maneuver close enough to the coastline because of the depth of the channel, that 12 nautical mile navigable channel. And God forbid we have a large ship that gets stuck in the channel, like what we saw in the Panama Canal a few years ago. And though the Strait of Hormuz is much wider than the Panama Canal, having a large container ship stuck would only make things worse. So, are these vessels going to be willing to hug Oman or hug the coastline of the UAE around the tip of Oman, where Oman has that small land sovereign territory at the very tip of the Strait of point of the western edge of the Strait of Hormuz? These ships are going to have to hug Oman, come down through the UAE by the Khan oil fields down into the Gulf of Oman, all while avoiding Iranian fast moving ships, sea mines, sea drones, and Iran's robust anti ship missile system that they have not only along the coast of Manab, the coast of Kashem, but also, as the U.S. Navy figured out today, off of the coast of Jask, which is the port on Iran that if you were to draw a line essentially from the Kher Fakan oil fields of UAE and go pretty much straight east across the Gulf of Oman, you would hit the coastal city of Jask, Iran. So the United States Navy has set up what is a skirmish line, a naval skirmish line south of the strait. Not in the strait, not on the strait, not dominating the strait, not patrolling the strait, not escorting through the strait. South of the strait. Guiding ships through by using aircraft and surveillance to help guide them in their navigation along the coastline, but then also by radio. Hey, have you crossed this point yet? Okay, we see you. Okay, you've crossed this point. We've lost sight of you. Flip to VHF. Okay, we see you again. Flip to UHF for line of sight. Guiding them through the strait, not escorting them. So what this does is essentially, again, puts all of the risk, all of the burden, all of the liability on these ships, which when you consider who owns them, what country they're from, where they emanate, what their insurance is, can they? And many of them cannot. South Korea tried, didn't end up very well.
Exactly. There's way too much of a risk. And actually, I did see a report just before you came on, so you're quite right, where one person in the vessel, I believe it's an Indian one, said, "We don't want to take the risk. This is just too risky. We can't traverse."
Very risky.
Yeah, exactly. So they're just confirming exactly what you said. So I guess what you're saying is this operation is just not workable. And if the operation is not workable, I mean, what's the means for this? Is it just to cause an escalation? You mentioned the Gulf and Tonkin. Do you think that's the aim of it? Because remember, LBJ basically lied about what happened. Is it to cause an international incident to escalate?
Is Donald Trump lying to the American people and to the world about the true state of affairs in this region? Absolutely. Does Donald Trump give the world or the United States a clear picture or guidance of what we're doing? Absolutely not. We saw the announcement or the Truth Social post Sunday morning that was, we received an Iranian plan. I don't like it. Regardless of what it says, I'm likely not going to accept it. Iran's got to pay for 47 years of terror. And then later that evening, going into Sunday evening, right after the announcement of Project Freedom, we see, oh, we got a new response from our response to what we sent back to Iran. I'm liking it. Our negotiators and their negotiators are moving towards something positive. What negotiators? Iran has already said that they will not negotiate with Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner. So who's negotiating? Iran is not aware of these multiple peace proposals, other than the 14-point plan that they've had from the beginning. So, what are these negotiations that Donald Trump speaks of in his fantasy Truth Social posts? It's nothing more than lies. And when you look at what is happening in the actual area of operations, in the Gulf of Oman, in the Strait of Hormuz, none of what the president has said to the American people is true. Looking at today, the USS Canberra, which was the U.S. Navy ship, which belongs to Fifth Fleet, which right now falls under the operational control of the USS Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, which is, at sea in the Arabian Gulf and the Indian Ocean and up into the Gulf of Oman near the strait, but not at it. This ship was basically this littoral combat ship has been operating at that line, so to speak, from the coast of Oman and the UAE in territorial waters out towards Iran near Jask, and it received missile fire today, just as Iran said that it would do. So the U.S. Navy is limited in its ability to maneuver. So what is there for the United States? What can the United States do? Well, as of this morning, the United States has approached that fork in the road. A fork in the road that strategists and military practitioners have seen coming. We are now at that fork. And in that fork, we have to decide, are we going to escalate hostility to try to reach what we want in a negotiated settlement? Or are we going to settle and negotiate with where we stand now? And I don't think Donald Trump's willing to do that. I don't think that Israel will allow Donald Trump to do that. And I do think that in the coming hours, Israel is going to join the UAE in some type of response to Iran. The UAE has already said they're going to respond. They cannot do it alone. Israel has put Tel Aviv and other cities in Israel as of hours ago on high alert, opening all bunkers and bomb shelters for people to start going to. And Israel has made a statement, a formal statement from its intelligence apparatus stating that they foresee that the U.S. ceasefire between Iran and the United States will crumble in the coming hours. I happen to agree with that assessment. And Israel will be a part of it. We're going to see a resumption of hostilities.
Does the US, in your view, join as well, or do you think this is going to be Israel and the UAE against Iran?
The U.S. will join. The U.S. I feel won't really have a choice. The U.S. We saw Donald Trump's latest or second to last tweet. Maybe it was his latest, where he said, this is not on us. Gulf states, or South Korea, come join the fight. South Korea, come get in on the fight and help open the Strait of Hormuz. South Korea is not coming. South Korea's got an existential threat to their north, and we've already taken Patriot missile systems out of South Korea. They need everything they can back home. They're not going to join. They may join in theory. They may join in being a friend in the effort morally, but they're not gonna join. So who is going to come to the aid of the UAE and Israel when they get in over their head? Because we've seen that every time. The U.S. will join back into that this time with direct naval assets. The days of February 28th to March through April of ballistic missiles, long standoff, those days are over. We have run out of those munitions. This will now be a close naval fight. We have moved prototype, once secret project, now in the open, hypersonics to the region. We've moved more ATACMS, Army Tactical Missile Systems, to the region. All of these are closer fight type of munitions when you consider the range that you may have to achieve in fighting Iran. We can't just hit coastal defenses or coastal cities, and we know that trying to penetrate deeper within Iran has led to failure. The rescue mission and the loss of MC-130 Juliets and that mission in Isfahan, the Israeli F-35 Lightning that flew deeper into Iran that was hit, struck, or at least targeted by surface-to-air defense capability within Iran. So I fear that when you take the geographic, the political, and the tension of the Gulf of Tonkin, the alliances and the forming of alliances seemingly that would normally considered, why would they support one another? We're seeing that happening. The ingredients of the alliances of World War One, and the tension of this region historically. This is a powder keg, and I think that spark has gone off. Now, how does that proceed? I think we're going to find ourselves back into a escalatory firefight, a war. The U.S. will be involved. The UAE will be involved. Israel will be involved. Obviously, Iran. China has already said that they will support Iran militarily and economically. Russia has pledged its support. So, in the coming week, we're going to see a drastic change in the escalation in the region.
So now let's look at this. We saw today there were 6 waves of attacks against the UAE.
Yes.
Fujairah port was hit, Abu Dhabi was hit, Dubai was hit, as was Jebel Ali port. If this was to happen as per the way you described this escalation, if you were Iran and you were targeting the UAE, how would you target them? Because my understanding from my sources on the ground in Iran was, in the previous altercation, there was a lot of hits on UAE, but at the same time, they were testing the UAE defense system. If you remember, during True Promise 1 and to an extent True Promise 2, there's a lot of old missiles that were going there in order to test their different systems. And they were doing the exact same thing for the UAE, and this is why so many strikes were successful today. And I guess my question is, what, in your view, do they do from a military perspective? Where do they target? How do they target? How would you conduct the mission?
So, when I always look at these types of situations, I know that there are a lot of internet personalities and others that simply look at it from the U.S. side. It's important to put on our IRGC hat, to put on the Iranian hat, to be sitting in Tehran and look at the situation from the Iranian side. If I'm wearing my IRGC hat and I'm looking at the situation, I have a blockade that the United States is sitting on the fence with. They haven't really gone all in. I can't really strike their vessels because they won't come close, but they're blockading at a distance. And that's a nuisance. It's economic hardship. It's a long stranglehold. It's not a death blow. And I look at, what capabilities do I have? What capabilities does the opponent or the enemy have? And if you look at where the UAE sits geographically, Iran knows that the United States will and must attempt to control the Strait of Hormuz, and guiding ships through it or having a distant blockade in the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea is not control. So if I'm Iran, I look at, what is the most likely and most dangerous courses of action that the enemy could take? Well, the most likely course of action is the United States will attempt to build up on the western border or the western side of the Strait of Hormuz. Where's that? The UAE, Oman. We do know that the UAE, on that intercoastal way of the Persian Gulf, where Dubai sits, just off of that, not very far, is Bahrain, where the Fifth Fleet is headquartered, where you have Qatar. So can the U.S. build up Navy forces, replenish and resupply Navy forces through land-based resupply through Saudi Arabia, or naval resupply from Kuwait along the Persian Gulf of the West Coast down to Qatar, or excuse me, to the UAE? Absolutely. And that's likely what the United States would do. So if you're Iran and you're looking at what's to come, you want to, in a way, take the legs out from under the table. So striking the UAE makes sense militarily. It makes sense philosophically in terms of striking the UAE now that they are no longer a member of OPEC, testing alliances, testing who's really going to come to help who, showing the world that, is this all about oil? Is this all about money? Who's going to defend the UAE? I doubt Saudi Arabia will. I doubt Qatar will. I doubt Kuwait will. So it's likely going to be Israel. And that's likely going to draw the U.S. So if you're Iran and you're looking at this, How do you break the blockade? How do you put yourself back into a situation of advantage? You know that the enemy is short on ballistic missiles. You know that the United States Navy, if it were, imagine this, if the United States Navy indisputably had sunk the USS uh, the USS Canberra or the USS Murphy or the USS Lincoln. Imagine the blow to you. You got a lot to gain and not much to lose. So if you're looking at why they're striking the UAE in waves, as you mentioned today, great observation on your side in terms of looking at the previous missile attacks. That was probing. Iran now knows where to hit and where to make it count, which is pretty concerning now because when you consider that we're short on munitions that can interdict and they now know where to strike, they have the upper hand when it comes to the use of missiles and asymmetric warfare. And that's not a good position going into the escalation of war.
And in addition to that, Trump just made a statement now, I believe it's to ABC, but I need to double check. And he said, well, UAE was able to stop a number of the drones and stop a number of the missiles. Now, we know mathematically you're not going to hit every single missile, right? Even if you were to hit 30 or 40%, that's major devastation. And we look at the locations that have been hit. If you want to just explain to the audience from a military perspective why a statement like that lacks any form of credibility when he says UAE stopped most of the missiles and drones.
Trumpian dialogue cannot be trusted. At best, confusing. At worst, manipulative. So number of, okay, well, if they fire 10 and I shoot down 2, well, that's a number of, but 8 still hit. So what is this number of? Did Iran strike targets in the UAE which caused damage? Yes. In fact, the UAE has now canceled school and has gone to remote schooling for all of their kids until May 8th. So something was successful. Things hit. Did they shoot down some? A number of? Sure. But what percentage? I think that more got through that did not. And then when you look at, again, with Trump announcing Project Freedom, making it seem as though U.S. ships are going to be waving the American flag, escorting vessels through the Strait of Hormuz like a shepherd through the night. Not true. Not true at all. We're guiding them. And again, I've asked, what does guiding mean? What is even that guiding? So anything that comes out of Trump's True Social account, from his mouth to his fingers to a screen near you, cannot be trusted at face value. And again, as I said, is at best confusing and at worst intentionally manipulative. So is this. I think that the UAE took a harder hit than the US is leading on to believe.
Oh, no, even worse than the Israelis, and the Israelis are really bad. Like, if you were to even put an image online, you're immediately jailed. You talk about the schooling being shut for a week. Well, that's because they want to blackmail the teachers to stay there. Because remember, most of their teachers are expats. They're from the United Kingdom
Yes.
and the
Yes.
US. And a vast majority of them weren't willing to go back. And they got number of them, even though a lot of them didn't go back, but a lot of them went back because they basically had to get paid. Like, you can't be 4 months without getting paid. You're not going to get another job as a teacher, as an engineer, as a technician till next year. So there was
Right.
so if they end up closing school for like a month, and they say that, they know there's going to be a max exodus, so they're going to do a week at a time, and obviously that's
Sure.
in order to ensure they're going to stay. So I guess the question to you is, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, if from the Emirati perspective, what's your knowledge of the Air Force and the kind of military capability? How strong is it? For example, with the Saudis, I know quite well. It's very much being brought in from Pakistan. They train their pilots. They kind of man the vehicles. There's not many Saudi Arabian soldiers or even Air Force men or even Navy men in the field. How is it in terms of the UAE from your understanding?
It's funny you'd mentioned that. I'm in Chicago right now, And last night I was at an event where I had the pleasure of meeting a senior Pakistani fighter pilot and another Pakistani Air Force officer, and we had that discussion on how Pakistani pilots train a lot of other pilots in the region. The UAE is a bit unique. The UAE is a customer of the U.S. Foreign Military Sales Program. Limited numbers of F-35 Lightning IIs, same aircraft that we have sold to other countries. The UAE is not considered a tier one, tier two, or tier three partner in that. They are considered a customer of foreign military sale. So in foreign military sales, it doesn't necessarily come with the training package and all the bells and whistles you would see in a tier one, tier two, or tier three partnership like we have with the UK. But do they have exquisite, capable aircraft? They do. There's not very many of them. They don't boast a robust, in-depth Army, Air Force, or Navy. So it's like having a Ferrari. You've got one, but you've only got one. So once that gets hit or you lose that capability, uh, you're really out of punches. So but even so, what would they do with that capability? I think that any response we see unilaterally from the UAE, from the Emiratis, in any near time that would be unilateral, would be symbolic and responsitory in a way to show that, hey, we can fight back too. Do they have the ability to sustain logistically or militarily a long-term engagement or defense or retaliation against Iran? They do not. I do think that the partner that comes to their aid is going to be Israel. Why I think that? Because in the Emirati statement that they released, they've already called May 4th as their October 7th. In their social media post, that is what they called it. They are patronizing to Israeli empathy.
No doubt. And I'm just reading here some more breaking news, which is more explosions are reported in the UAE a short while ago. And then CENTCOM issues a warning to the UAE that a swarm of Iranian drones are currently headed towards Dubai. Why would CENTCOM need to be given the warning? Have they not got the capability themselves?
Unfortunately, I think that probably in this first and second barrage of strikes from Iran, they probably struck some of their radar capability.
Interesting.
Remember, Iran knows what to strike, where to strike, and how to strike it. And the most critical thing you could do first and foremost is radar interdiction, because once you blind that, you've taken the lighthouse, so to speak, out of the equation. So is the UAE now blind in a sense? I think so. And CENTCOM does have the ability to monitor what may be coming from Iran to the UAE. Remember, that's a very small distance across the Strait of Hormuz. Can U.S. CENTCOM assets? That may be the mission of what critically of what the USS Canberra, the littoral combat ship, if it's still in the fight, what it could be doing now, because the littoral combat ships do have air defense radar capability. It's quite robust. Either way, CENTCOM can provide that oversight. And the great question you asked is why? Well, I think that the UAE's ability has been severely degraded, if not destroyed.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Now, we also have this small possibility. I did see a statement, but I haven't been through it properly, which possibly is that Iran is saying that they didn't do the Fujairah attack on the Fujairah oil refinery. Do you think that's possible, or do you think that bit? Well, basically, the question is this: do you think the entire thing could have been conducted by America? I'm highly doubted. Do you think maybe some of it was by Iran, but maybe like certain elements were by someone who did a false flag? What's your kind of thoughts on how something like? But then they need to know the timing, right? Do you think that's workable as a solution?
Well, the timing to conduct a secondary or follow-on attack from an initial attack, whether it was Iran itself or another actor, a malaligned actor, as I would say, such as the United States or Israel, could Iran have struck in a limited capacity, specifically focusing on radar capability, detection capability? I think that's highly possible and likely, and quite honestly, that would be prudent of Iran to do that. Would Iran need to or feel the need to strike the oil facility? I wouldn't rule it out, but I would put it in the category of unlikely. More so unlikely than the likelihood of Israel or the United States doing it as a false flag to try to raise tensions, to try to raise resistance, to look at the big bad Iranians and what they did. So is there that element? Absolutely. And I think the likelihood of a false flag or a feint attack that was not Iran is more likely than the likelihood of Iran having attacked it. Now, did Iran conduct attacks against the UAE today in a limited sense? Absolutely. I do not doubt that at all. Did they attack infrastructure? I find that unlikely.
Yeah. So we're actually getting reports here which says this is according to military sources to Iranian TV say Tehran had no plans to attack Emirati facilities in Fujairah port. What happened is the result of American Army's adventure to illegally open a passage for ships to cross from the prohibited passages in the Strait of Hormuz. So what it sounds like is what happened is when America was deciding to take this action, Project Freedom in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran basically laid out to them, look, if you do X, we'll attack UAE and we'll attack X, Y, and Z. If you go into the strait and I don't blow up one of our vessels or whatever, then we'll attack, as an example, maybe Saudi or whatever and do X, Y, and Z. So it sounds like they kind of have like a escalatory plan depending on the actions of the United States of America. And that escalatory plan is because it impacts Trump and the United States of America. These are US allies. But more than that, and I'm a big believer of this, this isn't from Iran, this is from me, that so much of Trump's personal wealth is within these Gulf states and wealth that we're aware of, but wealth that we're not aware of. There's a lot of hidden dark money there as well. And so when they threaten the Gulf states, they're not threatening it solely based on being an American ally, because it's quite clear Trump doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about South Korea and Japan, but I think he cares about his personal wealth, and I think they realize that. But anyway, I've kind of gone on, but what's your thoughts on this kind of escalatory?
Well, I'll say to your point that I don't disagree with that. And if you look at who else has their wealth in a lot of these countries, especially the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, is Jared Kushner,
Yeah.
Steve Witkoff. Could this be sending, in a way, also sending a message to them or hitting them where it hurts? Absolutely. So, yeah, when I look at the, again, the geography of the Strait of Hormuz, Project Freedom is not the United States penetrating the navigable 12 nautical main channel of the Strait of Hormuz, escorting ships in and out heroically. It's not happening. The U.S. is on the south side of the Strait of Hormuz, in the Gulf of Oman, basically like a welcoming party. Keep coming, guys. Keep coming. We see you. Praying nothing happens. And then, here, okay, we'll now escort you further. And then by that point, those ships are like, well, we don't need your escort anymore. In fact, leave us alone. So when you look at the how Project Freedom would be done without losing massive amounts of ships in the channel and making the U.S. look really bad, the direction would be like, yes, hug the western coastline of the channel, hug the coast of the UAE and that tip of Oman, around into the Gulf of Oman. That's the way you're going to go, and we're going to guide you through that so you don't get stuck or hit any landmines. But in doing so, and let's all remember, a blockade, a military blockade of which the United States is conducting, is an act of war. Regardless of who's conducting it, a naval blockade is an act of war. Does Iran, therefore, have the justifiable right of self-defense against a blockade? Yes. Did Iran put out messaging, put out statements that said, if you attempt to navigate the Strait of Hormuz, here, or here, we will respond. It's exactly what they're doing. And yes, I think that the IRGC Navy or the IRGC Coastal Command commander, and even whoever is the leader of the IRGC now, there is no doubt that just like the U.S. Central Command Commander Bradley Cooper, they probably possess a decision matrix that was drafted to them by their staffs that inform the commander, if this, then this, if this, then this, in terms of what the opponent does, how we respond. So just like the United States plans in military design and military operations and joint planning, so too does the IRGC. Do they have a series of decisions and escalatory responses to if A then B, or if C then D, or if X then Q? Yes, they do. To think otherwise would be ignorant. So what we're seeing is a military plan on behalf of Iran. To think that strikes against the UAE were just because the Ayatollah rolled over in bed and tweeted something on Persian social and decided to take action in a irrational way like our president. No, it's calculated. There's a reason. To me, it's pretty clear. How the U.S. responds, not so clear. But I do think that Israel will come and support the UAE in retaliatory strikes, and that will inherently draw in the U.S.
So just on the Israel, obviously we know this entire war is really for Israel. The only reason the United States of America is there is for Israel. That being said, Israel is deeply engaged in Lebanon,
Yes.
in a fight that on the ground they're struggling, although through the air they are causing a lot of devastation and destruction, and areas where the resistance is, they're able to go in and demolish a lot of buildings. And from what I understand, Israel would ideally have wanted a scenario where there was a continued blockade ceasefire for them to kind of get a better situation there before they do it. Israel being forced into two fronts, is that something Israel wants, from your understanding?
Well, much like we saw in the initiation of hostilities against Iran on February 28th into the morning of February 29th, Israel initiated and then went back to focusing on Lebanon. So would Israel do just enough to reignite hostilities, and then the U.S. gets involved and Israel goes back to its fight in Lebanon? Absolutely, I could see that for sure. In fact, I think that's part of Israel's plan, is to get the United States back involved directly against Iran, maintain the blockade, but also have escalatory measures of military action, which then allows Israel to go back to its war against Lebanon. And then really that asks the greater question about the 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 achievable end state in Lebanon, much like what we have seen in Gaza, and much like what we're now seeing in Lebanon. The IDF does not have the ability to go in and fight ground war successfully without immense loss and hold terrain. So they bomb it from the sky. So, in order to do that, Israel needs the world distracted. Israel needs the world looking away. Since the war in Iran has started, who in the world has really looked at what's been happening in Gaza? The continuation of genocide and starvation? Who's really been following it? Not many people.
No.
That's by design. So when you look at Israel getting the United States in another shooting war or escalation with Iran that draws the ire of the world back to that, so they can continue their indiscriminate bombing campaign of schools and houses and neighborhoods and mosques and churches in Lebanon, that's exactly what Israel wants.
I feel like it's the same thing in Lebanon. Not as many people are cognizant, aware, or even bothered about what's happening in Lebanon. They're just so misdirected on other things.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it is very disturbing how much of the world is can quickly turn away from, oh my God, war in Iran, flipping back to, at least here in the United States, uh, who won an Oscar? Oh, I want to go see that movie. Yeah, the cognitive dissonance is somewhat concerning, but to the same point with Lebanon, yes, that Israel wants a grand distraction to pull the American people, especially the American Congress,
Yeah.
into infighting over something else. Well, Israel can go back to its bombing and, quite frankly, war crimes in Lebanon without drawing too much scrutiny because people are none the wiser. And that strategy is Israel's geopolitical grand strategy. an operational way to achieve that grand strategy, get involved in reigniting this war, and then step away and hand it to the US. It's exactly how we saw this war unfold in its onset. I mean, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, the President of the United States all told us in the first days of this conflict that we went to war for Israel. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's not anti Semitism. That's not us making that up. That came out of the mouth of our President, our Secretary of State, and our Secretary of Defense. We went to war with Iran for Israel. And since we've started this war, other than a few sorties of Air Force attacks, what has Israel done for this conflict? Nothing. They started it, got it going, and then boom, immediately all go into Lebanon.
Agreed. And now, one last question for you is, based on what we've seen today, how do you expect the next few days to go?
Well, I think certainly over the next few hours, we're going to see a lot of escalatory rhetoric from the President of the United States, likely some injecting comments to incite from Israel. As we saw already, Israel's first statements in the wake of these attacks already this morning or this afternoon were, hey, Israeli intelligence assesses that the U.S. Iran ceasefire is going to fall apart in the coming hours. So there's already this incitement into that. So we're going to see a lot of going back and forth. We're going to see increased naval activity by the United States closer to the Strait of Hormuz in their Operation Project Freedom to guide container vessels through the strait, which puts them in direct striking distance of Iranian anti-ship missiles. We're going to see the UAE prepare some type of response, limited though it be, and Israel then soon joining in that response, whether it be through F-35 strikes or missile strikes. It's going to be just enough to get the U.S. back into a shooting war. And I think that's what we're going to see in the next coming days.
Yeah, we shall see. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, always appreciate you coming on. Now, I know you're fighting a very important race in North Carolina. How's that going?
It's going really well. And, you know, this example of endless war, where, you know, just here in the U.S., let's look at just in the last week, the price of gas has gone up over 30 cents per gallon. Since the onset of this war, over 50%. And for Donald Trump to say Americans are willing to put up with a few more dollars at the pump to fight this war, that's not true. Because it's not just the cost at the pump, it's the cost everywhere, in our groceries, in our deliveries, in our gas, in our power bill, in our, you know, it touches everything. And for the President of the United States think that Americans are just okay with that shows that he is out of touch with reality. But our Congress is out of touch with reality. In my district, District 13, the current incumbent Republican Brad Knott is a millionaire, doesn't live in the district, is Israel first, and takes AIPAC money. So the fight that I'm fighting down here in North Carolina in District 13 is for the American people, is to get corporate out of our Congress, is to get Israel out of our Congress, is to get foreign influence out of our Congress and start putting American people first and having a leader in Congress for District 13 that recognizes that, yeah, the American people do care and it does impact them when the price of everything goes up and the cost of living increases, but wages and income do not. Maybe fine for billionaires like Donald Trump. Might be fine for the Mark Wayne Mullins, former Oklahoma senator, now Secretary of Homeland Security, who make trade deals right before wars start. To the Baron Trumps who make crypto trades right before a war starts, coincidentally, or even to the U.S. Army Special Forces Master Sergeant who places bets on the initiation of a war with Venezuela and earns $400,000 off of betting on American lives. That's inherent in Congress as well. It's not what the American people want. So the campaign is going very well. We're picking up momentum. As I said before, the primaries are over. I am on the ballot. So going into November 3rd in the general election, when Americans and North Carolinians in District 13 go to the ballot, my name is on there. You don't have to write it in a petition. I don't have to have signatures. Your vote is not wasted. And we're going to change Congress. And that's what I'm here to do. And it's going well.
No doubt. And we have our full support. And I know you have the support of the majority of, well, nearly all my audience, which is basically largely American. And so really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll definitely get you back on
Thank you.
again. Thank you so much.
Anytime. And let's see what happens in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. That was Lieutenant
Thank
Colonel
you.
Anthony Aguilar. Guys, also give him a follow on X. His X handle is Anthony AGU. And some numbers. I'll look into that, what that is. And also he's on all the different socials. And his website as well is Anthony for Congress. So make sure you're following him there. If you're on the YouTube stream, guys, like this video, comment on this video, share it, and let me know your thoughts. What do you think? That do you agree with Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar? Do you think this is going to be a major escalation? Do you think Dubai is going to be absolutely demolished? What's your thoughts? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Guys, if you're on the YouTube, make sure you have your notifications on. The channel is Moral Resistance. You're on the channel now, but make sure you're following, as in subscribed, and have your notification on as well. That way you'll know, because tomorrow we've got two things set up, and one of them, the guys is a bit, he changes it a lot. I want to thank the church, 5,000 for the level 1 membership. Welcome to the Moral Resistance. Welcome to the Moral Resistance. Yeah, come and follow us there. Sorry, I got like a bad cough. Welcome to the Moral Resistance. Thank you for joining us. But listen, all of you guys who are listening, make sure you are following. Make sure you put your notifications on, because tomorrow we've got an interview at 2 p.m. Eastern with Scott Ritter. We've also got 4 p.m. a debate with Rabbi Shmuley. So you're going to enjoy that. It'll be interesting. So, but with Shmuley, he changes things all the time. So you need to have your notifications on. So go to the channel and put your notifications on and put all notifications. So you click on it and put all notifications. That way you'll know when we're going live on this channel. Lots of news. But before we do, guys, like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Support your boys' work. Now, we're gonna be moving back to the other channel. So give me 2 seconds while I set that back up for you guys. So we're gonna be back on the main channel. If one of the admins can, one of the moderators, sorry, can put the link of that in the nest, that will be awesome. Sorry, in the not in the nest, in the YouTube comments, that would be awesome. Okay, and then wait a sec, I've done that, so I need to copy this across, and then we'll go here. And then we just need to add this on, and then we're almost ready. We're going to be streaming on there now. Okay, that's sorted. Okay. Start streaming. Okay. So on this stream, thanks for watching. Appreciate you on the YouTube. We're still on the X, and we're going to be on the other YouTube channel. So I'll see you guys there. Has someone posted it? No, they haven't. Okay, 1 second. Let me quickly post it first, so you know where to go to. And then we'll move across. Oops. Okay, so we're just getting everyone across. I'm just getting the link here to put it in the YouTube comments. Oh, brilliant. Beatrix has done it. Let's pin that. Okay, so there it is, guys. Come across there. And I'm about to end the YouTube stream on here and all the streams. Appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate all the guests that we had on. We're going to be back onto the other stream.